Hello, everybody. It's the long-awaited event, MaM-A-Thon. We're here to talk about Stephen and Brennan, bring awareness to Stephen and Brennan. We're here to talk about the cases, talk about the documents, the facts, the court stuff.
Talk about Stephen and Brennan, bring awareness to Stephen and Brennan.
I apologize about that, folks. So that's things we're here to talk about. It's going to be on 4 different channels, hosted on 4 different channels. But before I get to explaining that, I just wanted to kind of illustrate a little bit in song why we're all here. So here we go.
Wisconsin can be so cold. The scales of justice can erode. If we accept lies big and bold, oh, we forget we live on Avery Road. We live on Avery Road. Should be easy to see. This could be you, could be me. We shouldn't sit by idly, accepting everything that we are told. I live on Avery Road. I live on Avery Road. Avery Road.
All right, big round of applause, even though I can't hear you, for Mr. Stacy Seabrook. He wrote that little ditty. And look, folks, we're trying to get him subscribers, by the way, because we want him to be able to go live from Raleigh this year in June, in the middle of June, basically. June 15th is Raleigh for Stephen and Brendan in Manitowoc County. And we want him to be able to go live from his mobile phone by that point in time. So we're trying to get him up to 1,000 subscribers. So remember that. Beyond that, let me turn my camera on. Sorry. All right. Hello. How you guys doing? So obviously, this is the long-awaited MaM-A-Thon. We've all been talking about it. We've all been, posting about it, talking about it, chatting about it. The day is here. The weekend is here. So you're here with Erekose. I'm kicking it off. This will be passed between me and 3 other YouTubers. Following me will be Allie Apperson. Some of you may know Allie. She's great. We love Allie. So she will be following me. By the way, hi, everybody in the chat. Hello. I haven't got a chance to talk to you yet, but just wanted to talk a little bit about MaM-A-Thon first. So we have Allie. Then after Allie, we have Tracy Strunzi. And then I believe, if I remember the schedule correctly, and then it's Mr. Capaldi, right? And then there's a schedule y'all can look at, and we'll get it posted for you. Links will be put up for the schedule here. And you guys will be able to know at any given time where the live is going to be, which channel it's going to be on. And that way we're keeping this going around on 4 different YouTube channels. So thank you very much, Rubber Ducky. thank you for what I'm doing, and for Brendan and Stephen as well, because that's what this is really about, by the way. And just wanted to say one thing, although I do appreciate that very much, Rubber Ducky. I want to encourage everybody here today, before you think to donate to me or to, any of the hosts here, although it is greatly appreciated, Rubber Ducky, thank you so much. But we want to encourage people to instead donate to Brendan and Stephen's canteens. And we have a PayPal link that the moderators will put up where you can do that. And what's going to happen is we're going to take all the money that gets donated over the weekend, and we're going to take that and split it in half. And then half of it's going to go to Brendan's canteen, and the other half is going to go, according to Stephen's wishes, to his canteen, and maybe into some of it into his trust. But basically where all this money is going to be going to Stephen and Brendan. So we would encourage you to please donate to the canteens before you donate to us, basically. So just wanted to say that, but much appreciated, Rubber Ducky. Thank you so much. Those of you who don't know Rubber Ducky's another YouTuber out there. She looks very hard into the case. She does a lot of work with the documents. She's actually right now doing a series of videos where she's actually reading the case documents, the CASO documents out aloud, doing them in segments. And I know a lot of people out there kind of appreciate that, because a lot of people can't really, they like to be able to research while they're doing something like driving, so they can turn on one of Rubber Ducky's videos and just listen. So it's actually kind of cool. So thank you so much for your participation, Rubber Ducky, and thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do. So anyways, to get back to what we're talking about here is, so there's 4 different YouTube channels here that it's going across. It's me, Ali Apperson, Tracy Struncy, who is basically a lawyer, the YouTube channel, basically a lawyer, and then we have Paul Capaldi, and his YouTube channel is named after him. So at any given time during this weekend, you will be able to find us live talking about the case. There is, like I said, there's a link to the actual schedule of what times it all is going to be. So if you're ever walk away, you have to go do something, you have to go hang out with the kids or do something, whatever, and you come back and you're wondering where the live's at, well, you can look at the schedule and just head to that person's channel, and there you go, you're back in it. So that's the whole idea here. We're trying to make it easy for everybody to follow and to be able to participate. We hope to see a lot of people joining in and participating and stuff. So I mean, it's very, we just want this to be a lot of fun and bring a lot of attention to Stephen and Brendan, to some of the really bogus stuff in this case that we've all been looking at and scratching our heads and going, no, this ain't right. We want to continue to bring attention to that stuff. That's what we're trying to do. So that's what we're trying to do, basically. I mean, that's the whole goal here. And we've got quite a few people that are going to be able to come on and talk about the evidence, about the case, some Redditors even tonight. So, particularly one of my favorite Redditors, actually former Redditor, now Twitter, basically activist. Anyways, he's going to be on here tonight. So, we're going to be having some fun this weekend. So, and Allie's got some guests lined up, and Tracy's got some very interesting guests lined up, and Paul's going to be chatting with some other folks and supporters and stuff like that. And so it's shaping up to be a real, at least a lot of fun, a lot of, support, and a lot of talk about the case and talk about the documents and that sort of stuff. So it should be a heck of a lot of fun. All right, let's look at what's going on in the chat here real quick. Actually pull this a little bit closer to me. Okay. Hello from Washington State. Hello. Let's see here. Sorry, just checking on the chat here real quick. We all work together to see justice being done for Stephen and Brendan. That's what it always should be about. Exactly. That's what it should be. That's what this whole weekend's about. It's about, number one, bringing more attention getting more people involved, hopefully, or at least looking at it. Whether or not I can get somebody on my side thinking what I believe, or whether I can get them just looking at it and really honestly looking at it and asking the questions like, is this credible? Is this incredible? Right? If I can get a person to that point, that's, for me, that's just as good as a W, or just as good as, getting them to agree with me, because I don't expect people to just follow what I say. So when I at least get somebody thinking about it, where I get them, where I point out enough to where they actually start to question and look at it with a scrutinous eye, then job well done. I don't know where they may eventually land, but at least I know they're looking at it with a scrutinous eye now, and not just casually glancing at it and not really registering it, right? So see ya. Hi from Australia. Hey, it's good to see you, Wardy. Respect for all the hard work and research. Thank you so much, Philip Jones. Hello from the other side down under. Mary Playford, hello. Hinda Sound from Texas. Hello, how you doing? People from all over. Hi from Canada. Hello, M Story. South Carolina. Hello, Tim Blackwell. Wisconsin. DeBoz Rez. See Don from Connecticut. See, you always present logic and well-documented facts. Thank you so much, Hinda Sound. Wisconsin here again. Lisa Sikowski. We look with both eyes and see more. Yeah, right? Sending support from the UK. Hey, Bean Green, how's it going? Hello from Adelaide, Australia. Hello, Megan. How you doing, Megan Gretsch? Donate to Stephen's Trust. Yeah, there you go. That's the link if you want to donate directly to Stephen's Trust. And that money in his trust goes directly to Stephen. It goes to him upon his release. Hi, JC. How's it going? New York. Hey, C. Acaveno. Sue Jones in the UK. How you doing? Hi, Taryn from Louisiana. Hello from Rhode Island. Hello, Jennifer. Hi, Miss Chris. How you doing? How you doing, Rebecca? Oh, you guys are funny. Hey, everybody, be sure to change your chat option from live chat to live chat from top chat so you don't miss any of the messages. Sometimes when you do top chat, you miss them. So, all right. Let's get this party started, right? Okay. So, very, very soon, I'm going to have somebody calling into the show, and we'll have a little chat, but I guess go on to what I'm going to be talking about a little later on. Oh, there he is. Hello, TikTok. How's it going, buddy? Hold on, let me. Put it on speaker here.
Yeah, I've got my volume up so I can't tell. I don't want to cause an echo or distortion. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear.
All right. Can everybody hear? Just say a little bit more.
Hopefully everybody in the chat is able to hear. If not, just give a thumbs up. Or I believe I can be heard. Looks like Miss Chris can hear me.
Sounds good.
Go. Okay,
yep, great. Sounds great. There we go.
Okay. So. What I'm going to have to ask first is that anybody under the age of 15 needs to leave the room. We won't go that far. Yeah, so I got to say, man, you are the most dapper and stylish YouTuber out there.
You like it?
I've got to say.
It's the tie.
You got the hair did right. You know, the suit going or the outfit going. You're looking sharp.
Yeah.
Sharp dressed man there.
It's the tie, man. It came all the way from Scotland, from Mr. Capaldi. It puts it all together, you know.
You completely kicked off the MaM-A-Thon completely the right way. So
yeah, awesome.
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a great event. 4 days, or 2 days, 48 hours. I think that everybody's going to really enjoy it. You know, you got really good hosts that are going to be very informative. You know, giving informative stuff. So
yeah,
I guess really we should just kick off. You know, just talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. Ask any questions or anything like that.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, we'll go on. What did you think of the clip with
King Kratz?
Our wonderful, I like to give top billing to Rookie because he stole the show. We have King Kratz on there. Really, anybody can steal the show, but Kratz, he did pretty terrible. I put a tweet out about it, and I was like, 10 episodes of making a murderer to look like a villain, so he demands that somebody else make a documentary and turn around and make him a villain.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, he had so many different facial expressions, like contorted, tortured expressions while he was talking.
I wasn't sure if he was talking or doing a number two.
Right.
He's he really was moving around. He was so fidgety too, and very, very immense amount of body language.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe.
Quite animated.
I couldn't believe that they released that to us. I mean, just the fact that it's supposed to be from his side, his perspective, and then to just release that on us and give us like this total insight of the Ken that we all know exist. You don't get to see that on the news.
Right.
Whenever Ken's doing those interviews, he's Mr. Professional.
That's what I immediately said too, dude. I was like, whoa, it's not a softball interview. Ken Kratz is actually getting some real questions. I was like, holy crap.
He looked panicked. He looked like Rookie had him against the wall. And I mean, of course, the other side, Gilters and Kratz himself, they're going to sit there and say that, they weren't professional questions, but they were the questions we all have. The questions that have been arisen from the documentary. And basically, they're the kind of questions I would ask. I mean, convicted murderer asked me to do it, and I declined. I have no desire to do anything like that.
No, really?
If there was another show, and I'm really glad Rookie did. Rookie stepped up to the plate and just hit a home run.
Right on,
minute and a half we got. I mean, imagine how long that's going to go with Rookie just grilling him over and over and over.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to that.
How much of that 4.5 hours are we going to get, right?
I have a feeling if it's a documentary that is kind of like Making a Murderer where it's spread out, I think we'll get quite a bit. But if it's just like an hour and a half like his previous documentary, White Boy Rick, I have a feeling that that's going to be really condensed, and we're going to have to like beg and plead for the actual footage that we can get, or that we can pray we get. Because I really have a feeling that Rookie kind of he really, I mean, even the Gilters, they showed him some respect. I was really surprised to see 2 or 3 like really prominent Gilters kind of give a hat for like just taking it to Kratz, and just asking him the questions we all have.
Yeah.
Kratz's reaction did not get very, very good positive feedback from their side, but I mean, he could do no wrong to a lot of people in their minds, just like to us. I mean, obviously, we're on Team Zellner, so we pretty much agree and support anything that she wants to do. So, whenever Kratz says something, it's, to this gospel. They've been reading this gospel or listening to his gospel for 12 years now, and they're bought into it. I mean, it's your echo chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the thing that there was a couple things actually. I did a video to point out what I thought was odd, but the one that stuck out to me the most is when he started talking about Steven's motive. And I was just like, oh, you turd. You didn't offer one. It's like...
He really had no motive if you think about it. I mean, there's a whole, he got rejected, so, he's going to... I don't buy that.
It's all weak, right? It's all, maybe.
Exactly.
Right?
He gets up to, I mean, here's the guy came out and wanted to get him. He got impeached like really quick. How many of us single guys out there are sitting there going, can't find a love, can't find a woman. He comes out of prison and immediately finds the woman that he wants to marry. I mean, how is that? We're going to take the picture of my car, and she's hot or something. Maybe he's thinking that's the other side thinking. But it's just amazing for me to think that anybody could even use that as a motive. I mean, if that's his motive, that's everybody's motive. You know, if they thought that she was an attractive girl and, you know, made a move and she rejected her. I mean, anybody, you know, who knows how many people, like, whenever she would go out, they get a rejection from her. You know, if they try to buy her a drink or, you know, flirt with her in a grocery store, you know, oh, she rejected me. That was my motive, you know.
Yeah, and I believe there is an account about her saying that somebody on the Auto Trader route actually did, like, make a pass at her and asked her to come inside, and she actually said it made her feel uncomfortable or something like that. So it's like, so obviously that was happening, you know.
Yeah, according to Pierce, Tom Pierce, she had made that statement to him that somebody had offered her drinks, or maybe it wasn't Pierce. I believe it was Pierce. It might have been the Yahoo guy, the guy that she was Yahooing with.
Oh, right. So, okay. Right.
I mean, it could have been him. I'm not quite sure. I haven't gone through the old queso. I've been having so much fun in the new queso and just going through and, like, rereading some of the parts of it. And you know, there's like that thing that I just found recently. I found it. Apparently, it was already out there. I never knew. But there's that particular moment where they're asking Bobby a question, and you know, it's Jeff Witch, I think, that asked him about when he left or something. And at that exact moment, Bobby's child starts screaming. I always turn the volume down when the kids start screaming in that interview. Right. And I never really noticed it, but I had my TV on, playing it on YouTube and just listening to it. Right. And I didn't turn the volume down at that part, and that's where I heard him say, "She left before I did." So I left before she did, rather. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. She left before I did. That, to me, you know, I mean, to a guilter, that sounds like, oh, he knew that she left. But to me, that sounds like he left and then realized that she left later because, who knows, maybe he met up, maybe he was following, or maybe she was right behind him on Avery Road turning on the 147. So for that little line to slip by, the Dieterine and Witch, really, like, it really shows the kind of investigation, I guess you can call it, that you would get from Dieterine, because the whole outlook of his investigation with both cases doesn't really seem like it's a fact-finding mission, as opposed to just kind of, you know, filler. You know, got to fill some pages.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Now,
the other thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so some of the other things in there was when he was talking about at the beginning that he's like, they're saying it's a debate, but I don't really look at it like that. I look at it more as more of a what's it called? He say a chance to educate or whatever. And then you go on to listen to him saying things like, "Are you smoking crack?" and all these things. I'm like, is this your teaching method, Kratz?
Oh, yeah.
Right. You know, I don't know. I like to poke fun at him because it's like, yeah, you were really doing a great job as the teacher there.
That's probably the worst kind of teacher that you could possibly imagine, because this person supposedly has lost, you know, like, a lot of his life due to his challenges and his trials and tribulations with drugs and his addiction. And to turn around and look somebody in the eye and ask them, "Are you addicted to crack?" I mean, that was the most, you know, I couldn't think
or are you smoking crack?
Who that should be more offensive to Rookie himself, you know, whenever he's looking at him, asking him that, or to anyone who's faced a life of addiction, to have a former addict actually belittle the feeling of being addicted enough to say that, like, just bluntly and carefree. It's like when he said it, it's like, I really have no care in the world what the repercussions of that one line could be. I mean, I've said stupid things that we all have, but he really should have been a lot more sensitive to the I guess the verbiage, to quote what's her name. You know, he should have been much more careful of his wording when he was speaking with him. But I saw no respect whatsoever from Kratz to Rookie at all. And granted, a lot of people were griping that, you know, Andy didn't stand to shake his hand. I wouldn't stand for Kratz either. I don't think anybody would. You know, I stand for the two guys that are in prison and pretty much all the supporters. Right. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things that you didn't know what you were going to get with that clip, but man, am I glad we got it.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a minute and 47 seconds of gold right there. Dude, Rookie knocked it out of the park, dude. Man.
Yeah, I just call that making a murderer 3.
Much props, dude. Anyway, that was awesome. Because when I first saw them tweet about it, and it said that there was going to be like 4 hours of footage or something or whatever, and I typed in there, I was like, oh wow, I hope we get to see most of it or whatever. And somebody else came on immediately and said, oh no, it's not going to be. It's going to be a pro Kratz piece or whatever. And so I was like, oh man, I hope it's not going to be another Kratz stroking, right? And so it turns out that it's not.
It was I know. They really hyped it up like it was going to be told from the law enforcement and district attorney's side. And Ken Kratz was finally going to get his say. Well, he got a say, and we all saw it. And it was funny. Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing. I've showed it to like 15, 20 different people. And I'm like, this is the guy that put 2 guys in prison. And they go, you got to be kidding me.
So one person asked, I wanted to, before I forget about this, someone asked, will you be at Raleigh this year by chance?
Oh, unfortunately, no. I will never step foot in the state of Wisconsin because I like being free. No, I got to be honest. I joke about Wisconsin a lot, but I think it is one of the most beautiful states that we have. And I've never really paid attention to Wisconsin until Making a Murderer. And when you see some of the scenery, I mean, their lakes are absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And, you know, I love to fish, and to be able to go out fishing on those lakes would probably be one of the most amazing experiences. They have some of the greatest architecture and structures, and their history is very, very rich.
A lot of really cool brick buildings and stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the current architecture that's there, but, you know, there was a time when I was, like, just chasing rabbit holes, and I was looking at, you know, possibility that Brad Check could have been involved. You know, this is back in my early days of theorizing. And I was thinking, you know, Brad Check could be involved, and he used to take photographs and at this place called the Alexian Brotherhood, or Alexian Brothers is a structure. It was about an hour and a half or 2 hours away. And when I saw the beauty of some of those buildings, or just, it's a former, I want to say an insane asylum, but it's maybe a hospital. I didn't really get too deep into the history, but it's kind of like a respected place now, and you know it's got like groundskeepers and all that stuff, but it's just a torn down or decrepit old building. But when you look at some of the photos of that place, it makes you magically want to be there. That's how amazingly beautiful Wisconsin can be. Yeah. So
the drive in from Green Bay to Manitowoc, man, just looking out at the rolling green fields that lead into the really thick kind of forests that are, you know, it's like, it's beautiful. It is. It's like just all rolling green. Well, when it's not snowy, anyway.
It really has that small town look to it. You know, I grew up in kind of a small town, and it wasn't really small, but it was kind of like everybody, you knew your neighbors, you know, and it wasn't like you knew your neighbors really well. It was like, you know, you'd run into people that you knew maybe 2 or 3 times a week, you know, but it had not the population of Manitowoc, maybe 50,000, 40,000, something like that. Right. And it just takes me back to my childhood, you know, like riding bikes up and down the street, you know, and hearing the cicadas in the trees, you know, late night summer, you know, on summer nights. And there's just, to me, so much beauty about the state that it makes me regret the fact that, you know, I kind of like burning bridges, I guess you could say, you know, and having people in Wisconsin that really don't like the fact that I support Stephen and Brendan, you know, but I mean,
I imagine they don't like me either, but they let me out. They let me out.
Did you get out of Wisconsin with good behavior?
I was there last year for Raleigh. It was brilliant. I got to go and see the trailer and see a lot of the where the car crusher was, and went over by where the RAV4 was found. This year when I get there, I'm kind of have a plan. I got to still organize it, but I have a plan to kind of do with my GoPro and just walk the berm and go all the way around.
Does it look really different now than it did back in 2005?
I would say yeah.
Like on the flyover video that you see.
I would say yeah. Like there's definitely a lot less cars than there was then.
Well, I hope your visit wasn't as edited as the flyover video was. You know, because I couldn't tell, like, from 1 minute to the next, you know, am I in Avery's? Am I in the quarry? Am I downtown? Am I in Green Bay? I have no idea exactly where, you know, each video shot is supposed to be because it jumps around so much.
Right. Which is important when it's in multiple places like that, right? Especially in a plane, because they cover so much ground, right? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, they perform hours, they give us a whole minute and a half of like tourism video, I guess you could call it. You know.
Right. Yeah. That flyover is a joke. It's like right when they finally get near where the RAV4 actually is, you know, it's like it's like there's a cut or something, or it's like such a bad angle of the spot where, you know, and yeah, it's just weird. Or when they are about to get a good shot, like for some reason inexplicably the camera just goes downward or something like.
Yeah, I think it was Wendy Baldwin that was filming, because you can hear Poggle sitting close to Curtis Drum, the pilot, and you can hear them talking just as they're about to film Avery's, and I think Poggle says something like it could be, or you know, something like that. But Baldwin, I think, is holding the shaky VHS camera. I've got to ask this: who authorized a deputy to take a VHS camera up in the air to film something when at the same time digital video was in existence? They could have digitally videoed it and made it to where you can see much more clearly. I mean, for crying out loud, they were 500 feet above the ground with a VHS camera, but on the insert machine, they used a digital camera 2 feet above the stupid machine. Right. You know, where was the thinking? Where was the thought? What was the thought process on that? You know?
Well, I don't think there was any thinking in this, really, was there? I mean, well, there was thinking, but it was like, wasn't thinking about how to do a good investigation. It was how to do what they wanted but to also kind of try to make it seem like a good investigation. Right.
They would have done a better job taking Leonardo DiCaprio up in the plane to sketch the entire property,
there
as opposed to the way that Baldwin filmed it. Yeah. It was absolutely horribly shot, and the editing. I mean, when you have a woman at the beginning telling how to delete video off of the VHS tape that you see deleted video on, I mean, how much more of that's basically just confessing, oh, you're going to see a really edited video here.
Right.
It's just terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wicked Wendy. Good old Wicked Wendy.
Yeah, she's all over the place.
So, okay, now we're going to ask about you a little bit.
Oh, myself?
One of my favorite things about you, actually, and I'm going to do a little screen share here and show everybody your former profile pic. You know, the Peter Griffin one, right?
Oh, yeah. My no guilters allowed.
I want you to tell everybody that story.
That's the thing. I wish guilters understood that making fun of me is not going to work, because I will just turn it around and accept it and embrace it. And to me, I mean, that's attention. I mean, if you really want to give me that attention, fine, I'll accept it, and I'll give you like what you want. You know, the acknowledgement that you made fun of me. So what? There it is.
But see, that's what I love about it. So tell everybody, I got it up on the screen for everybody to look at. Tell everybody the story about this picture.
That picture was actually created by a guilter. They thought it was funny, so they put it up on Reddit, and I literally loved it. I mean, I love Family Guy anyway, so you hit my funny bone there. But then to make that little sign that says "No guilters allowed," I mean, come on, you've gotta have that. And I had that for a long time, and then I started to change my profile picture. I forgot what all it was for, what the first change was, but then it started to be more addressed towards what's going on in the case. And with crack, you know, like right now, it's the two most famous crackheads that I can think of, Tyrone Biggums from Chappelle's Show, and Pookie from the movie New Jack City. Right. So I figure, you know, I've got to pay homage to Ken's acknowledgement of the fact that perhaps we are on crack. You know, quite obviously none of us are, but I would hope. But if he's going to, you know, if he's going to have fun with it and say something he thinks is really relevant and funny, then I'm just going to have fun with it and run with it.
Right. Hold on a second while I turn something on.
God, I remember those days when I hated Twitter.
Studio's getting a little bit warm, so.
Oh, is the phone cutting out?
Sorry, what?
Was my phone cutting out?
No. I just had to turn on the AC because I was about to die in here. Anyway, so that's it, guys. I love this one, by the way, folks. I just like what he said. I loved it because it had Peter Griffin on it, and it was just like kind of, you know, with the pillow fort and all that. So I just kind of found it funny that way. And then like he was saying, with the no guilters allowed. And then when I heard him explain where it came from, that made it even better. So
because the way that I set up TikTok, the Reddit page, was actually, kind of like trying to get back at some of the people that were on Reddit originally in the former Making a Murder Reddit page. It really made the experience very brutal. They were snide, hateful, and when I created TikTok, it was going to be guilters and truthers allowed, no problems. But then I think there was 9 originally that were absolutely just toxic. Like Mick, of course, he was the worst. But there were some really bad ones, and when it was first opened, there were guilters allowed.
Yeah.
And then there was a joke made. To kind of give a history of people that don't know, there's a joke made. Somebody came on TikTok and put a post up about how they had found Toyota keys on the beach. They were walking along, their dog was digging in the sand by a drain pipe and found Toyota keys with several, like house keys, and there was a lot of keys on it. They were really scared because people were walking by and looking at them and, oh my God, I don't know what I should do. And the supporters, being nice people they were, saying, whatever you do, make sure you're protected. First get to safety. Take the keys, put them in a plastic bag. Don't pick them up with your fingers. Make sure you get them to Kathleen's owner. They were just being very supportive. And then turn around a couple of days later and see that it was just a guilter playing a prank on truthers. And I was like, you know what? I want to know who that was. So I asked him, I'll give you 36 hours to let us know who it was that played this practical joke. And if not, TikTok Manitowoc goes to the truther only. And they refused to tell who it was. So they were pretty much, I banned everybody on site. Everybody that was of the opposing thought process on Avery and Dassey. I felt like, I created it, so I can do what I want. And it wasn't like me hating guilters. It was just the fact that I didn't want them to feel like they could run over TikTok Manitowoc like they did the Making a Murderer Reddit. So
right.
They haven't changed. They've shown their true colors that, and I don't hate guilters. I don't want guilters to ever think I hate them.
Yeah, I agree.
It's guilt by association. One bad apple ruins a bunch. And when you have 10 bad apples, obviously, you got a rotten orchard.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, I wish that it could have worked out to where the two sides could have gotten along. But there's so many toxic people, and I won't default guilters thinking that they're the only toxic ones. I have seen toxic truthers, and some of them I just didn't want on TikTok. So they face bans like a guy like Sandman or the Edward Wayne Edwards guy. Just people that were just not respectful of others, that were coming to just talk about the case. And that's really all I wanted people to do, was come to TikTok and just talk about the case. Or I take that back. I wanted them to be on the original Reddit Making a Murderer page, just talking about their support for Stephen, where they felt like everything went wrong, why it is that so many people are affected by this case. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect the feels that I had from the case that I had. I mean, I watched it just thinking I was going to be entertained.
Right.
I think it was the moment that you heard, do we have Stephen Avery in custody, that I was absolutely addicted to that documentary, and I had to watch every episode immediately. So I couldn't believe they were doing that to him. After releasing him from prison, they turned around and just arrested him for a murder, and before they even have any evidence, they already want to know if they have him in custody.
Right.
It was wow. And, one of the key things that one of the key mistakes that I noticed a lot of people made with Making a Murderer is they watched it and then kind of gave up on it. If you go back and you rewatch it, I mean, I watched it probably maybe 13 times in the span of a month.
Yeah.
And no matter what, there's always something you miss. And I did that probably in the first few months, and then I stopped watching it. I felt like I'd learned enough from it, and I had the case files. I was going through them daily, reading and rereading things, kind of making a mental notation of where everything is at so I can find it very quickly. And, it was doing that, this whole luring thing that Ken loves to talk about, Avery lured her out there. If I hadn't gone back and read and reread, I would have never found the Dawn interview with DCI, where she basically details how Stephen called in, and she informed me that they don't typically do same day photography or appointments.
Right.
And he said, well, the girl girl, basically he was telling her, well, the girl's done it before. He's not saying, I want Teresa out here. He didn't say it all creepy. He didn't even call her by name.
Right.
He called her she. And Ken is saying he specifically asked for her when he called in.
Yeah, send that same girl as before, I think is the words Ken uses.
Yeah, she's been out here before, and then for him to say, he gave a fake name. He didn't give a fake name. John couldn't understand him because he has that thick Wisconsin accent. Granted, she may be from Wisconsin as well, but she just couldn't understand him. It sounded like he was slurring. So
right.
when she heard the name, he's saying Barbara Yonda, and I probably wouldn't know that if I heard it. So she wrote down B Yonda,
right.
and he's giving a mysterious,
right.
fake name.
Right. The way they're trying to make mountains out of molehills is very telling. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the kicker to me is how no other employee except for who was it? Angela Schuster has ever mentioned any other photographer besides Teresa, and Schuster immediately told DCI about Williford. And to me, I always felt like the fact that she said that Williford worked for the state was really, really weird. I was like, why would a state employee be taking photographs of cars? And I always wondered if there was something more to that. And whenever I saw the Convicted a Murderer trailer, I saw Kathy Williford, former Auto Trader employee, and I got to Google her. So I Googled it up and took a look, and sure enough, a file came up, or a former appeal in a case, in a drug case, where she's listed as Special Agent Kathy Williford. Of course, the K is spelled with a C, but why would I couldn't figure out why in the world a Department of Justice Special Agent is doing on the Avery property 10 months before Teresa even shows up for the Halloween photograph. So,
right.
There's things like that. There's little things that if you recall.
Well, the other thing too is, right, why would he call Auto Trader if he had her number? He could have done this all way more on the down low. Why?
What murder leaves a paper trail?
Right.
I can't think of a single person that's, thinking, hey, let me just call the person I'm going to murder and make sure that everyone knows that she's going to be at my house.
Right.
Because she's never going to leave. So I want everyone that she works with to know that.
Right.
That's the problem that a lot of people have with the fact that I refuse to admit or even acknowledge the fact that Avery could be guilty, because the logic doesn't answer it. You can ask questions, from now until tomorrow or next year, next millennium. You can ask all the questions you want. It all boils down to, where's the logic?
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna burn a body in between two houses where 5 other people live in the other house. Hey, that. How many times have you ever walked by somebody's barbecue and been like, "Wow, they're really burning their"? Come on, a couple of hamburgers on a barbecue grill can stink up an entire neighborhood.
Right.
But you're gonna tell me that you put a corpse on a fire? There's people for miles that are gonna smell that.
Right.
No disrespect to Teresa's memory or anything, but there's absolutely no way that she was burned in a populated location. And the quarry makes perfect sense. There's obviously no one around for a long ways. If you ever looked at an overhead map of where the bones were found, where the 8675, the hip bone,
right.
The pelvic bone, where that was found, there's nobody. There's no houses. There's nothing. That is a desolate area.
Right.
And, when I first used to theorize about the case, I came up with some wild, outlandish theories, and some of them, they still make sense. The Carmen Buchwald thing, I had a thread on the former Making a Murderer. I think I picked it up from somebody else. They may not be on Reddit anymore. If they are, then, kudos to you for kind of the tip-off. But I had no idea at the time that Carmen Buchwald had died on the same day that she was reported missing. And it started to, dawn on me that, wow, could it be that Teresa's body is in the ground somewhere and they substituted Carmen's body?
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm thinking, how can they get the DNA? And then I find out, well, there's only one bone that had DNA. And then I find out the FBI never even, got a little profile off of it. And the more that it just, the more information that was out there, it started to make more sense that, perhaps my theory isn't so far off. I came up with I was thinking about the Zipper dog, You got
right.
George Zipper talking about his dog being so fierce. And you've got Lemieux documenting the dog in her report. They're banging on his door for 20 to 30 minutes before he comes out, and nobody mentions the dog.
Right.
So I started thinking,
AC points out the dogs are not biased, which is true. Go ahead.
Yeah, dogs aren't biased. Yeah, so I felt like it could be possible. She's taking a picture at the zipper's property, and she walks down towards the car. The dog breaks free from its chain and attacks her because he's a fierce dog, as was mentioned. She's a stranger on his property, and if the dog attacked her and bit her, then I theorized that maybe Mrs. Zipper was shooting at the dog, to get the dog off of Teresa, accidentally hit Teresa. Bam! You don't have a murder, you have an accidental death, but they were afraid. I mean, I had a lot of theories when I first came into making a murderer.
Right.
And some of them sound outlandish, and I agree. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that. I always jump in a rabbit hole, and I'll dig until it stops. And if I can't find anything further, or I'm told I'm going the wrong way, then I'll back off of it and be like, okay, well, time to move on to another location. Right. And there's other theories that other people do, and I would never talk anyone. I shouldn't say that. I would never talk anyone out of a logical rabbit hole. If what they're saying makes sense, keep digging. And for anybody that is supporting and looking over the documents, keep digging. And even after you've dug as far as you can, go back and redig, because there's so many things that I've noticed. I've read it and it didn't register. And then whenever I go back and I reread it, for the second, even the third, maybe even the fourth time, it makes sense. And it goes, wow, it's so many stunning things that Alex Quattrini, he's the gentleman that was convicted of murder. I had no idea that. I think you may have even pointed something out before about the voicemails. I think I picked up on that. Mike Hallback had listened to her voicemails before anybody even arrived, before law enforcement had even been there. Right. And I can't figure out for the life of me why he wasn't giving the voicemail details to the cops. Yeah. And then I go back and I reread, and then I see that Fassbender had to get a search warrant, a subpoena, in order to get her voicemail records, and he didn't even get those until 7 months after Brendan was already arrested, a month after Brendan was arrested. I'm like, why didn't he just get those voicemails from Mike Hallback? Why wouldn't Mike Hallback help find my sister? Here's all the people that called her in the last 3 days. Right. So there's definitely a reason that the family, I feel like they could have worked with the police better. And to this day, I really hope that the Hallbacks start to look at what's going on and really start to question whether or not they got the full brunt of an investigation, or if they got just kind of pushed to the side. We're going to run our show the way we want to. We're sorry about your daughter, but we're going to put the guy in prison we want to put in prison. And to me, that's not justice. And I get a lot of slack, and from guilters and everything, when they don't think that I'm being respectful. But I am completely respectful of the memory of Teresa, and I feel like everything should be done in her memory. And
100%, folks.
To me, she didn't get any justice whatsoever. I mean, the justice for Stephen that we're searching for, it's not just the justice for him; it's complete justice for Teresa. So I feel like if they reopen an investigation or if they do a new trial, we'll start to see some answers come out that will provide justice for everybody.
Okay, one more question before we have to disconnect here, because we got somebody else call in here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Who is your number one suspect? Russell Gatton wants to know.
I get asked that quite a bit, who I think did it, and I alternate back and forth because I can see theories on both sides. I would say Scott and Bobby would be the most logical, because you have the RAV4 that is found near the Avery salvage, and if it's not Stephen, it's got to be somebody that's in the close proximity. Right. Bobby lies way too much. He's got way too many lies on his docket. Then you have Scott, who's alibiing Bobby, so that to me associates him. I don't know if I'd see Scott more of a murder as a cover-up, but I just, the porn, all the things, the deer, lying about the deer. I mean, it's something so innocent, but yet it's such a huge lie. But I also can see it where it would be Ryan and Scott, over on her side. The only illogical thing that I can't think of is how they would get her RAV4. They killed her at home. How they would get her RAV4 back over to the Avery property 45 miles away. Right. Yes, it hasn't been reported missing or anything like that. They could have easily drove it, but I would think possibly before the 4th. You know, and the reports started coming in like the 3rd or the 4th. That, you know, it was on the side of the road. So,
right.
you know, if you're asking like who I would suspect would be guilty, I would say between the 4 of those, I would lean more towards Bobby, but I can't say for sure that that's my number 1 suspect. I would rank them, but it would be really, really hard to rank them as far as who I think could have done it, because everything with Ryan, with the blinker, with the date planner, there's so many things with him that make it seem he could be just as guilty as anybody who's.
That's where I kind of look, is that I'm number 1 concerned with who the hell this was calling and harassing Teresa specifically. Who was it?
Sorry about that. But yeah, I'll wrap it up. I'll just say that, you know, just listen to Zellner. You know, if she is telling you who she thinks did it, then she obviously knows a lot more than we do. So we only have what we're provided, and she has what the state provided. So
but it's also a chess game.
Her everything.
I would say it's also a chess game. I'd say she's not always showing all of her cards.
Yeah. So she's if you look at it like a Texas Hold'em tournament, she's basically sitting there with headphones on, sunglasses, and she's giving absolutely
poker face.
Best poker face ever. She's not going to let her opponent know anything that she has. So Ken, he may get cocky, he may get arrogant, but I really have a feeling he does not know what he's in for.
Yeah.
I mean, if Rookie got him that rattled, imagine what Zellner's going to do to him.
Oh, absolutely, right? Yeah. All right.
But I'm gonna let you get to your next call. It was really good talking to you. It's great seeing all.
Hey, would you be willing to consider coming back on maybe on Sunday?
Yeah. Well, actually, Sunday is probably bad, but maybe Saturday I can come back on.
Sunday night, or Saturday afternoon.
I'll look at your schedule for tomorrow and come in and do a little bit more talking. And I didn't really get to answer, you know, like a lot of the questions I'm sure a lot of people have, you know, in the chat. It wasn't really much in the chat. But, if anybody wants to ask questions, they're in tomorrow. I'm definitely going to be watching you guys. So I'll stay awake tonight to watch Allie and as far as I can. But, I mean, you guys are doing a great thing. And I think
thank you.
Basically having 48 straight hours of support for these guys is just the kickoff to hopefully what we can look forward to in justice, you know, because really that's all we're looking for.
Right. Yep. Awesome. Thank you for being here, man. It's great having you on.
Have a good weekend. I'll try to talk to you tomorrow and have a great rest of the show.
Yes, thank you. And you have a good weekend, buddy.
All right.
See you, bud. All right. That was pretty cool, folks. I have liked TikTok for a long, long time. I've followed him on Twitter. I remember when he was, you know, ran out of the Reddit community or ran out of Reddit and everything. And so he set up shop on Twitter. And I mean, dude, I just love it when his tweets are awesome. There was one point I was going to bring it up to him while he was on there, but maybe if he comes back on tomorrow, I'll talk to him about it. But there was a point in time where he was apparently reading the SAIG, Stephen Avery is Guilty Reddit, which is the opposite of TikTok Manitowoc. And he was like finding statements by guilters, and he was like that he could easily like answer and disprove and show as a fallacy or whatever. And he was taking screenshots of just the comments, and then he was putting in like documents to support it and that sort of stuff. So anyway, okay, we have another caller, folks. Hello.
Yes, John Frac.
Hi, John. How you doing? Hello, folks. We have John Frac calling in tonight to talk with us a little bit. It's great for you to have you here. How are you doing?
Real good. Glad to be on, and want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight as well. Then.
Yes, absolutely. There's 225 people watching at the moment, so that's pretty nice. So thank you for being here. Obviously, for those of you who may not know, John Frac is number one. He wrote a book regarding the current situation in the Avery case. Well, current as of October of 2018, I would say maybe. And he wrote The Wrecking Crew. And those of you who've been following my channel since I was going live on October 18th know that the community of supporters and researchers that have kind of developed a community because of my lives and my YouTube channel have called themselves The Wrecking Crew. I don't know if you knew about that, but it's a term of endearment, really.
No, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely a term of endearment. So they loved your book so much that they changed the name of the community to Kose's Wrecking Crew. So so we all love you. So those of you who don't know, John is a reporter. He used to work for the Post Crescent there in Wisconsin for a long time, and he was the guy that we all waited for to write articles, because this guy wouldn't sugarcoat it, or he would actually tell us what was going on, and we knew that because we were actually reading the documents, and so we always appreciated John. And when he wrote the Wrecking Crew, it was awesome. And but he's also written other books. I wanted to point out that he's also an author, and he has interest in other cases as well. But we have some questions tonight that I asked the Wrecking Crew for, and they mainly pertain to Avery and that sort of stuff. So but thank you for being here, obviously.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to do my best to be informative with so many great people tuning in tonight.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things the one person asked was, while you were writing Wrecking Crew, did you experience any resistance or pushback there from, I don't know, the entities there in Wisconsin that are in question, I guess?
Well, it's kind of interesting, I mean, it's a little different, when you're kind of in the trenches, on the ground, boots on the ground as a journalist, but then you're in the same state, and then in a way as well, if you really think about it, journalism is very competitive.
Yeah.
And everybody reads each other's stuff, and everybody watches each other's stuff, and everybody listens to each other's stuff. And as much as police departments oftentimes talk about, that they're really proud, of cooperation and working with other agencies, and I do think that that's true a lot of times. But if you really think about it, journalists are very independent, and they're very, they have a lot of pride, and they're very competitive to begin with. We don't have that much. Our profession is not built on patting each other on the back for teamwork. It's not supposed to be that way. It's very competitive, and I think because it's competitive, I think that oftentimes it should usually bear out the best of the best. But as you and a lot of your viewers and listeners will also know, if anybody that's studied Making Murder, and the Stephen Avery case and the Brendan Dassey case, there's a lot of groupthink, with the coverage. And normal times, the thing I like about being a journalist is that I might, have a scoop, a big story today, and then 3 days from now, one of my competitors will, and I'll see my competitor's story, and I'll say, hey, that was a great angle, maybe I should try to follow that up. But what's interesting, if you think about it, from Wisconsin's standpoint, is that a lot of the journalists that were covering the case, especially the TV people, and those people do have a lot of influence. There's a lot of people, in Wisconsin that watch the boob tube, so to speak, and that's where they get their news, from, and that's where they make up their opinions. I mean, if that wasn't true, then why did Ken Kranz hold that press conference, in the Stephen Avery case before Steve and Brendan were anywhere near going to trial?
Particularly back at that point in time, right?
Yeah, live press conferences. Yeah, so because if it was the other way around, all he would do is just, write up a bunch of transcripts, and hand those out to the newspaper reporters and the radio people, and then they would write it up. But it didn't have the impact.
Wouldn't have the same, right?
The dramatic effect. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So getting back to your question, I was kind of surprised as a reporter in Wisconsin just how few people, were really, synthesizing and kind of digesting, after the original Making Murder came out, and stepping back and saying, hey, wait a minute, this case, there's a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of questions in it.
Like a piece of Swiss cheese.
Right. So as there were a few of those first, but I realized, and we did at the Post Crescent at the point in time, that there was a big audience. So many people, like you guys, and more and more and more, millions of people, that really wanted to know what really happened, and they didn't want lip service. And what I really found out was that I started to dig into the case, that there was just a lot of journalists, in Wisconsin that were just a disgrace to the profession. That were just and they were running these BS, bullcrap stories as far as things about the sheriff's office getting threats. I mean, that was all bullcrap, and I wouldn't be surprised if those guys were phoning it in themselves.
Right.
I mean, there was no legitimate. I mean, I get crap like that all the time. People threaten me all the time. I mean, it just comes with the job.
Right.
I mean, if I see somebody driving in front of my house, that's another thing. But there was nothing for anybody at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office to take seriously. And what I could tell was that those stories were manufactured news just to try to build up sympathy, from the local voters, from the constituents, and really, if you think about it, those were diversionary tactics, because those had nothing to do with the real facts of the case. It had nothing to do with fabricating evidence, planting evidence, not giving Brendan and Steve a fair trial, stacking the deck against them. So when you get TV stations that are running these fake news stories, about the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office, being threatened,
right.
That just kind of shows you that they were kind of in it, they didn't really want to take the case seriously, whereas my attitude was, I'm going to dig into the case, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to let my reporting take me wherever it goes. If it shows me that making a murder was, a farce, and that there was, parts of the case that weren't really told, then that's what my reporting would have showed. But my reporting basically validated, everything that people saw in Making a Murder. And actually, as I've been able to expand into the book, and as Kathleen Zoder's been able to dig into the case as well, we now know that there's way much more as far as corruption, and just other transgressions that have been going on at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office, for a number of years. And it really boils down to the question of, were these guys even smart enough to solve a murder case? And that's a question that people like you and everybody else has to ask themselves. Are people, do you really believe that people like Jim Link and Andy Colburn, and Dave Remiker are really smart enough to solve a complicated murder case? Because in this case, as the evidence came together for them, in a stroke of luck, in a 7 or 8 day period, which was the greatest thing in the world for a guy named Tom Kishork, who was sweating bullets, waiting to be deposed in Steve Avery's, $36 million lawsuit. The clock was ticking. I think November 9th or November 10th, was his D-Day as far as having to answer all his questions.
I've often thought that may have been the real thing that was trying to be avoided, more so than the $36 million, even. Possibly.
I think that there's a good chance that that's true. One of the things that I've learned, especially digging into a case like this, and hopefully a lot of your audience knows this too. Sometimes you got to pay really close attention, to the people that are silent, in a conspiracy. Yeah. Pay attention to who's not showing up in court, who's not putting themselves out front and center. Yeah, sure, there's people like Ken Kratz that love the attention, and I would say even to a degree, Andy Colburn's the kind of guy that likes to be, out front and center. He likes to be talked about. He likes to be thought of highly, but he's one of those persons that I think kind of likes being in the limelight. But you got to look at the other side as far as who are the people that are really shady and dark, and what kind of people in a case like this, are just trying to be in the background, kind of hiding behind, the curtain, in a dark room, who doesn't want to be, seen out front. And, like you just said, a guy like Tom Kishork was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
In this particular case, and there's probably a couple others if I sat back and thought about it a little bit more. I think Jason Jost would be another person like that, possibly.
Yeah.
You know, and certainly Mike Bushman. You know.
Yeah. Bushman, right?
As well.
Best friends with Chris Eric, wasn't he? Or
What's
good
that?
friends?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, Bushman's always been fishy to me too. Drew Ertl over to dig up a dead tree stump on the west, over by the quarry, I guess. And stuff.
And again, it just boils down to a fairness issue. Why is a guy who helped throw the handcuffs on Steve Avery back in 1985?
Right.
For the Penny Bernstein sexual assault on Lake Michigan, over on the shoreline there. Why is he, coming out of retirement? Who calls him up and says, "Hey, Mike, we could use you today"? And why are they even making that phone call?
Right.
Knowing that he's already got baggage and ties to Steve Avery, but
yeah.
he's not even working anymore.
Yeah.
So,
he's retired MCSD. So it's like, but MCSD is not supposed to be here. But hey, let's even call their retired employees out. Come on, let's.
Yeah, I always thought that as much as people, and certainly as we all know, Tuesday, November 8th, 2005 is one of the most pivotal. Well, it's the most pivotal day in the case as far as the evidence trove is concerned.
Right.
That's when Jim Link and Andy Colburn, they're just sweating bullets, and they're working so hard, and they're shaking that desk with all their might, and that spare key just shoots out at that strange angle, and why didn't I take physics in high school? I would have. We all know how it would have happened if I would have just taken the physics class, but I'm just being sarcastic, obviously.
Right.
I just want to make sure people know that here, but yeah, I mean, I'll be a little more serious here. But yeah, we have the spare key being found. Then we have the license plates being found that morning as well. Yeah. The crumpled up license plates. They turn up in the station wagon that's already got its windows busted out. And then the third thing was, with Jason Jost, finding, having that hunch, to go. I better go look around by the
fire pit,
on the edge of Stevens burn pit. And,
the big bad dog is gone now, right? We can go look over there now, right? Yeah, ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, those three events right there pretty much helped facilitate what was going to happen the next day, which was getting the arrest warrant for Stephen, on November 9th. But for me, the most interesting day to study, and I hope I did a good job with it in the book. I did the best I could with what I had to work with. But I was always fascinated with, the day that people really forget and really don't focus in on, with the case. Because I understand why they didn't. Because, November 8th, with the key and everything else being found, that's a huge day. And November 9th, Steve gets arrested. And Saturday is the day that, Pam finds, where God tells her where to go. And, and she does what God tells her to do. And then, and then she finds, the vehicle back on the back of the property. But from my standpoint, that Monday is such an interesting day because there's so much activity going on. And yet, if you really just read what was in the police reports, you would think of it as basically a nothing day. Nothing was found that day.
Right.
We blocked off Cuffs Road and we're down there from 10:30 a.m. Until about 5 or 6 p.m. that night. When Ertl and his crew finally finish up, but yet Ertl and his crew aren't called out there till the middle of the afternoon. And then you read John Gatering's reports, and they're like a paragraph long, if memory serves, maybe even shorter than that. But it's basically like, we checked this out. It's very suspicious, but there's nothing here. Nothing to look for, nothing to see. And again, who are the first? I'm more interested on who are the first guys on the scene that day. And it's I think it's Andy and Jim, Link, Dietering, and Uyghur's kind of in on the phone calls. I don't know if Mark was actually at the scene, but he's kind of, kind of playing general, that brigadier general that morning as far as kind of which troops to assign, to that location, and then you get Mike Bushman, out there. So you have Mike Bushman playing that huge role with the, with the suspicious discovery that's made off of Cuss Road there, in the grassy area over there. But then you also have the fact that he's leading one of those teams, the one that decides, let's go search, the northern end, kind of out by Steve's property, and it's his team that decides, hey, let's look inside this burn barrel, and lo and behold, that's where all the, the remnants of the phone are, And here's the thing that's really interesting about that is that we all know that there's photographs, of I think Remaker and Link, on Sunday afternoon, so 2 days earlier, on the 6th, where you could see this photo of them with that blue tarp, where they're kind of putting it over the burn barrels. Right? And if memory serves, I think those were all the burn barrels from Brendan's property. But I'm thinking to myself, why would you be confiscating only Brendan's, Barb Yonda's burn barrels? When Steve Avery's your prime suspect at that point in time. Why would you decide to leave Steve Avery's burn barrel behind? But more importantly, just not even look inside of it. So again, why do you get to Monday, when Mike Bushman and his team, his all Manitowoc County team, is assigned to kind of, hang out in that in that area around by Stephen Avery's property, and then they decide, we're gonna look inside his burn barrel, and then we're gonna realize that there's got to be something hiding underneath, the wheel well that's in there. So we're just gonna pull the wheel well out, and lo and behold, we're gonna find all the remnants, from a burned out cell phone that's in there. So again, that's all going on Monday, November 7th. And again, who's who drops in for one day only in the case, and then who just kind of evaporates, like a ghost or a specter, and that's our friend Mike Bushman.
Pinch planner. Anyway. Like a pinch hitter. Anyway.
I mean, it's like I said, it's really interesting, and like I said, he's a table setter, whatever you want to call him. But I just really would. I mean, as much as there's always, I'm sure we all have our own little, thing about the case that we're dying to know what really happened. I mean, for a lot of people, I think that would be known definitively. Where was Andy? What was the exact time that he found Teresa's vehicle? What was, if you could put yourself in his shoes, where was it? What was the time? And how did it go down? But I think, like I said, for me, I would actually be interested in kind of, being in Mike Bushman's shoes as far as, how does it happen where he gets a phone call or he's tapped, and told, hey, we need you to come out to the Steve Avery, the Avery salvage yard, and this is what you're going to do, or these are the things that we need you to do. I would really love to know, how that conversation went down, who it was with, and just basically what he was told to do, or, and maybe it was just, maybe it's just something along the lines of, we need to get this bastard, and we need to get him in jail, and now I've had a number of people told me that when I was working on this case. They're like, John, it's probably didn't, if Link and Colburn were involved in planting the evidence and, and the key, people have told me, they're like, it wouldn't have happened in a way that somebody like Ken Peterson would say, you plant this, it would be more along the lines of, I don't give a shit, what you have to do to get this SOP, get it done. And that's the thing people always kind of, hung up on, and people talk so much on the other side about, well, you just couldn't have 20 people in a conspiracy, it would be too big. Well, Yeah, that's true. But you wouldn't have professional law enforcement people having stupid conversations like that either. Nobody would be telling, an Andy Colburn or a Jim Link or somebody else for that matter.
Right.
You plant this and you plant this and I'll plant that. No, it's just kind of understood. It's like you don't say anything and we won't ask any tough questions. That's how normally these kinds of
right.
conspiracies or evidence planning schemes happen. So.
Right. Someone else asked about, do you think if MAM hadn't been released, do you think all this attention would have, do you think there would have been this much attention on this case without MAM?
No. I think that Mickey murder, was very instrumental, and that it's the reason why we're having this conversation tonight. And why there's been so much interest, in wrongful conviction cases. It really played a huge role. It was kind of a seed, that sprouted the flower, so to speak, as far as bringing so many people around the world together to try to realize that that there's so many wrongful conviction cases out there, that are just tragic on so many levels that just don't get the attention and the publicity that they need to in order to really kind of force everybody to step back and assess and reevaluate of the quality of our criminal justice system.
But I would say, fortunately, there are some really good ones getting made right now. There are some really well done documentaries, like The Staircase, like West of Memphis, and even the Central Park 5 one. That one's just I've watched that one. These really, really brilliant documentaries are starting to get made, so I think that's going to help the situation. I think.
Yeah, well, it won't hurt. So, and I would throw one more in there too. Just I thought the one that was where John Grisham was based on
Innocent Man
out of Oklahoma, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
but I thought that was a real good one. And although it's not a wrongful conviction case, the Keepers, with the story about that sister, Mary Catherine, I think was her name, suspect, or however you say that, but the one out of Baltimore, the 1969,
I know which one you're talking about. Right.
Yeah, one.
The Keepers, you guys know I've done a video about that, right? So yeah, absolutely. That one's another one. Oh my God.
Right.
That one's I mean, that one there, what are we supposed to think when we can't even trust priests? You know what I mean? I mean, think about the amount of trust that people have in their priests. You know what I mean? And to see something like what happened in the Keepers, but not to get too far off point, obviously. But yeah, that one's another good one though. Certainly. Somebody else was curious. How difficult was it for you to look up historical information when you were researching Wrecking Crew and writing it?
Well, the one advantage I had was that I had, did a lot of reporting, and I had cultivated a lot of sources, at least with the facts about the Ricky Hosteller case. So I was very fortunate from that standpoint that I had tracked down hundreds of documents when I was a reporter, with the Post-Crescent, so that was fortunate. I think one area that I kind of, which is really, there's no mention of it in the book, and I don't know if it would have worked in the book, to be honest with you. Yeah. I know some people at least have studied it a little bit, but I had at one point in time tried to research that other missing persons case out of Manitowoc County, the woman that disappeared in 1988 or so. And they at one point in time dug up a farm. I think the guy's name, was Neuser or Neuser, Neuser, but it was a farm property their body's never been found to this day,
Oh.
and there's very, very little publicity about it, and I was interested, and I think I did a freedom of information request for information on the case, and the sheriff's office, shot me down, and it was at that point in time where I'm trying to figure out, what's a good use of my resources.
Right.
So I backed off, and I figured, well, I'll pursue the Ricky Hostetler case. It was kind of like I came to this fork in the road, and it's like, what should I do? So I went after Ricky Hostetler, and I kind of pushed that case to the side because, and I know I made a phone call or two trying to track down like a family member or two, and I was unsuccessful with that, even though I had a couple leads. So it was one of those things. I had nobody in the community really was pushing, trying to get justice for this woman, trying to find out what happened to her, who killed her. And I was actually interested from the standpoint of thinking, well, you know what, if you believe the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office version of events, then they just were really so interested in bringing justice to Teresa and her family. And my attitude was, okay, if that's really true, then why aren't you working your asses off then trying to find, this other missing, woman, from your own community, that lived in Manitowoc, in the Manitowoc County area, and she hasn't been found either, which also means that there's a killer, that's out there, that's on the loose, so I saw these two cases as being hypocrisies as far as, well, if you really are interested in justice and, and you're proud of everything you did for Teresa's family, then why aren't you doing anything for this woman that, this mother that disappeared in 1988?
I totally agree.
So,
I totally
but
agree.
It was, so
I think the Ricky Hostetler case. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Ricky Hostetler case. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, if people are interested, that would be a case to try to, do additional research on because, like I said, there's a killer that's still on a loose to be. This woman's body's never been found. And it's 31 years now, I think, since she disappeared. I think it was 1988. So.
Right. And the thing I was going to say is the Ricky Hostetler case, as you brought that up, I had meant to talk about that. And for those of you who don't know, Ricky Hostetler was a kid in Manitowoc who was run down in the middle of the night, in the early morning hours, by what is suspected to be a drunk driver. Basically, Manitowoc County officers basically dropped the ball, and they also lied to Ricky's mother about things they said they had done that they hadn't done, and she ended up finding out about it. And for me, the Ricky Hostetler case is a very, very clear illustration of why we can't trust them when they try to wrap themselves up in the hall box and say they're doing what's good for the hall box and blah blah blah. I can't believe that, and the reason why is because I've seen what they've done to Ricky's mom, and other things like that. So I'm glad you brought up Ricky.
I mean, and I'll be honest. I mean, I really don't believe that Rob Herman really cares about the Hallbach family. I really believe that. I mean, and I'll go out and say that on a show like yours tonight to kind of get some people interested in talking about that. But I really believe that. I think that guy is a total phony, and that's based on other people that worked with him at the sheriff's office and knew him, in his younger days. So I don't think he's sheriff anymore now, but the guy was a total phony, and you could he almost looked like he was reading, from a script, reading talking points as far as, talking about Teresa, and her family. So that's, you could just tell that if you study him and watch any time that he talks about Teresa, or, wanting to bring justice to the family, it almost looks like he's reading it from either a script or he's got a, message board, which I'm sure he did, but it was just, that's the way, it doesn't come off as genuine, is what I'm trying to say to people here tonight. When somebody's genuine and when they're sincere, and he just sounds like he's just repeating the talking points that some other public relations people or other police officers, had gotten together and did a powwow and said, these are the things we're going to say, and these are the things we're going to repeat.
Get our story straight, right? Right. So I know we're at the end of the 30 minutes. Would you answer one more question for us?
Yes, I can do that for you then.
All right. one more question is some people are curious, what project are you working on currently?
The one I'm working on right now it involves a fellow that he's still in prison in Illinois, and this is not a wrongful conviction case. It's kind of the opposite, but it involves a fellow that was a serial killer in Illinois, and his name was Milton Johnson. And if you look it up, you'll find a little bit, but there's not an incredible amount of information about his case because it happened. Well, I should say most of his crimes that he committed were in the early 1980s. He actually was sentenced to death here in Illinois for several of these murders. But in Illinois, about 15 years ago, completely got rid of the death penalty. So his sentence got commuted. He's still in prison to this day. But it's a really creepy. It'll probably be the scariest book. I was telling somebody that today. It'll probably be the scariest book that I've ever read, just because these crimes, some of these crimes that happened, I mean, these things are just going to scare the crap out of you and everybody else. It's just, they were middle of the night kinds of crimes, that you couldn't even, it would be like a Friday the 13th kind of movie scenario as far as how some of these crimes, happen. So it's, but it's kind of the opposite. Like I said, this is probably going to be a book that gives props to some real good work, by a police department or two, here in Illinois, and the prosecution, did some fabulous work. But this guy is really an unusual duck. So he actually served as his own criminal defense attorney at one of his murder trials. They had two separate murder trials for him. He was convicted of one murder, and then they tried him for a quadruple murder that he had also committed, and then they held off on charging him for a number of other crimes just because, they prosecuted him for the best ones that they thought they could get a conviction on. So they got him convicted of 5 murders and got him sentenced to death for that. And nobody was thinking, back in 1985 that, oh, by the way, 18 years from now, some governors, nobody's going to be thinking that the guy's still going to be alive in 18 years, and then B, that his death penalty is going to be overturned. So,
interesting, very interesting. Well, that's cool. Look forward to that, everybody. That's what he's currently working on. So that's awesome. Thank you for being here. And if I could ask you to give a shout out to the Wrecking Crew.
No, thanks. I appreciate you mentioned the book and the good feedback that you've gotten and heard from people. And like I said, for people that haven't had a chance to digest it yet, I would encourage you, to give it consideration. I tried my best to kind of put together the case from the standpoint of Kathleen Zellner, as far as she's brand new on the case, Making Murder just come out, and here's basically, everything that's kind of going through her mind, and I tried my best to kind of lay it out, sequentially as far as who are all these world-class, world-renowned all-stars that she brings into the case, and what are they contributing, to the case. Right. And she's trying to put together the very best case that she can, knowing what she's going up against as far as the state of Wisconsin that doesn't want to see her at all, that doesn't want to talk about Steve Avery, and just wishes this whole thing would go away. So, again, my publisher is Wild Blue Press out of Denver, Colorado, and again, the book is Wrecking Crew. You can get it, on Kindle, which is what most people do. Paperback sales have been very strong, and then also we have a very good audiobook version that was narrated by Kevin Pierce, who's a phenomenal audiobook narrator out of Florida. And he's done hundreds, I think, of true crime books. He's just really good at
very pleasant to listen to. I actually have it on Alexa. Whoops, I mentioned her.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
Anyway, so yes, thank you for being here, and that it was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
And like I said, just want to thank everybody for tuning in this weekend, and like I said, hopefully sometime in the near future, and I don't know when it is either, but just hopefully, we'll have some major developments developments on the case, that we could get together again and talk about that. Okay.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure, and I do look forward to the next time. So, thank you for being here.
All right. You got it. All right. Well, thanks very much. You have a great weekend now. Okay?
You too. All right. So that was John Frac, folks. That was great talking to him. Very interesting. And then he even brought up Ricky Hochstetler, which was great because those of you who don't know about the Ricky Hochstetler case, that one is another one. It's like I said, when you hear these guys telling you BS, like, BS stories like that they care about the hall box. It's out of concern for the hall box. It's out of concern for the victims. Yeah, well, they didn't show anything anywhere near that level of concern for the hall box and Deb, Ricky's mom. So it was, pretty sad, really. So anyway, all right. So let's check on the chat here for a little while. If it's too late to ask, what does he think of the outcome of the case will be? Well, he said he'll come on again. So we'll definitely get to ask him. I had more questions than I was able to ask. The first question, there was so much to talk about there that I ended up taking a great deal of the 30 minutes. So, but that's, we'll hopefully get him back on again and we'll talk a little more about it. Read several of Karen Pierce narrated true crime books. He's a bomb. Bushman was also the responding officer at Rick's Hit and Run. Rats, I may have to go soon. Well, sorry to see you go there, Rebecca. Thank you, Jennifer Manning. See, I think Bushman has a big role in this case. Yeah. I think he kind of does, actually. Let's see. Great start to a great weekend. Yeah, it was. It has been. It's been very interesting speaking to TikTok and to John Frac. John Frac had a lot of interesting things to say, I don't want to leave. All righty. November 4th. Let's see here. Finn, thanks. You guys rock for doing this. Thanks, Erekose. You're welcome, Russell. For short stint. Dang, missed TikTok. Well, he's, you can always replay this when it's done, obviously. It was fun talking to TikTok, though. Like I said, I've been following that guy on Twitter for a long time. And, he's just always got a lot of really, really interesting points. And he's always got the documents to back himself up. And so it's always fun watching him. Thank you so much, Robert. No, now I really need to go. Okay, be watching later this afternoon. Oh, well, bye-bye, Jane. I don't like how it split my name. He knows his stuff. Yep. Everyone get your pajamas on. Slumber party with no slumber. Oh, that's funny. Thanks so much, Erica. See you later, Gloria. Thanks for tuning in. I thought the MaM-A-Thon was starting tomorrow. I missed out. Well, we've been posting the schedule. I'm sorry if you missed it, but we have been trying to post it as much as possible so people would know. Bushman definitely needs to be looked at with a microscope. He can even talk fast and be right, whereas KK just blathers and spits and sputters. I am cozied up for the duration. Right on, Linda. How you doing? Where is TTM from? TikTok Man Talk is on Twitter. He used to be on Reddit a long time ago. But now he's on Twitter. Can we get KZ on at some point? I doubt it. You know, anybody involved with the case, they were just like, well, I'll put it this way. I couldn't even get a response from him. I'll put it that way. Any of the lawyers, anybody involved, I couldn't even get a response. Okay, that's I'll put it that way. Now, some people did get a response asking, you know, if they would be a part of this. They were asking some of the players involved, and those people did get a response, and it was basically a very cordial, no thank you, I cannot be involved. And when it comes down to it, it's because they may get called into an evidentiary hearing at some point, and so they don't want to be heard speaking publicly about the case, and so that's most likely why we couldn't get them on. But basically, no, we're probably not going to be able to get KZ or Buting or Drizzen or anybody like that on, unfortunately. But, you know, there's also a reason why. So thanks for entertaining me while I work making cakes. Hoping to be in for the long haul. Awesome. Busy Bee. Hey there, Travis. What's up, buddy? I'm so appreciative that you and all the others are bringing attention to this case. Thank you all. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's it all about, right? What's it, you know, why are we here? I mean, fair question, right? So, this is why, right?
My name is Stephen Avery. Thank you for supporting me, and I appreciate it so much. From the bottom of my heart. Tune in to MaM-A-Thon Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This weekend MaM-A-Thon is a great way to help support me and Brendan. And God bless you all for helping me.
And that's what it's all about, right? We're here to help and focus on helping Steve and Brendan and that sort of stuff. And so that's why we're all here, right? Someone will have to tell me the story of TTM and Reddit sometime. 110. Hope you have the Metro Pass, Travis Williamson, Esquire. Hey, everyone. Thank you, all who are taking part. We can never stop spreading awareness. Yep, you're right, Angie. Love this. Hi, Stephen. Don't forget to donate to Stephen and Brendan. Good luck. Good to be here with family. Hello, Allison Moss. Won't need PJs till Vampires Alley is on. That wasn't on the well, that last clip I played wasn't on the phone. That was a recorded clip. Some of you may have heard it. I uploaded it to my channel a couple days ago. My heart broke for both of them when I heard SA message. I hope Stephen Avery can see some of this support. He will definitely hear about it. I can tell you that. The GoFundMe for international donations. It's sad. It's a sad tale, Rhonda. A story of what happens when you speak the truth. Honestly, I thought we were all going to watch MAM together and discuss it as it was playing. That would be an interesting idea. I wonder if we'd get in trouble for playing that audio. I think the audio might be copyrighted too. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I know they let me do small clips of their audio, but if I try to do a clip of video and audio, that doesn't work. They don't like that. Some of the guests would like to keep some anonymity. Did not seem to sound rude. I know some inmates can have tablets now. I think Stephen and Brendan can see this. I don't know. Probably would this stuff like Twitter, stuff like YouTube would probably be blocked, I would imagine. Don't make me freaking cry again. We'll be giving updates on donations after every shift. I hope that is why we are all here. He debates guilters, and they don't like it, so they stalk every word he says and reports anything they don't like damn near instantaneously. Talk about TikTok Manitowoc, Sapper Cup. Just got done with your show tonight in Kentucky, or with our show tonight in Kentucky, and just wanted to say MaM-A-Thon rocks, and this group has such great supportive folks. Thanks, Brandon, buddy. What's up, buddy? Hope it was a good show, man. Do you think the license plates were ripped off by hand? The folds meet up with the screws, which indicates it was someone on foot. Yeah, maybe. I mean, could be. A toast to Stephen and Brendan. This wine in a jug and Winston Lights is for you. Okay. Let's see. Who is next? Should we ask you questions? I will be having on a couple people here in a minute. Kind of trying to wait till the turn of the hour before I bring on the next few guests. Actually, one of them I have to see here. There it is. All right, so just wanted to grab an email address for when I go to add those people. All right, back. Hello. And Reddit is run by censors. Yeah, Reddit has become rather ridiculous in that sense. It's very difficult to have a conversation when there's so many people you can't talk about and everything. It gets real, difficult, to say the least. Think the license plate ripped off by hand. Let's see. The toast to Stephen and Brennan. This one. That was amazing. My husband believes that Too Busy Bee. Brendan has a tablet, but Stephen doesn't want one. They have some internet if they can email. Erekose is Chromecasting to my big screen. I'm Chromecasting to my great job on the hair tonight. Oh, thanks a lot. Thank you. Let's see. Hey, dude, you finally got to speak with John Frac. Another box ticked. Go along with giving Steve and Laura a control question t-shirt. Yes, which I did in Australia. I had to go all the way to Australia to give him a t-shirt, but hey, it was worth it. Suppose I should put in front of my comments. But yes, Brendan does have a tablet. You're welcome, Hind of Sound. I have pretty good at drinking beer on the tap for you Sunday. But Brandon, did you ever figure out Ooby Dooby? Anyway, no, it's cool, buddy. It's cool. Good evening, Brandon. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Erekose, I'm making a murder. Did you know Leah Kratz has the Cat's Cam clip as her pinned as her pinned tweet titles? An opportunity for education. My moment of the week. Really? She has really. I don't know. I didn't notice that, but wow. Anyway. With Brendan's current move, he has so many more opportunities for him and less time to write. No yawning allowed. Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to. I can't help it. In an anathon? in an anathon? Oh, that's funny. That's funny kind of sound. I love it. Hats off to TTM mods. It's a tough job. I agree. Yeah, hanging out on TTM and even Reddit it's my hats off to them. Because there's still a lot of gold coming out of Reddit. There's still a lot of great posts getting made. If you have the background to understand the initials and to get all the, to be able to see through all the different abbreviations used to help with anonymity of people that are being talked about, and on it goes with Reddit. Reddit's just gotten to be real difficult to have a conversation, but I still think it's a great place to discuss, really. So, can I speak to the health of Ma and Pa Avery? Sure. Yeah, they're, as far as I know, they're fine. Ma Avery is, I believe, has a new knee now, and as far as I've heard, she's been recovering well and she's doing well and all that sort of stuff. Alan, as far as I can tell, is same as ever. He's taking care of all of his critters out in Crivets and going, between Crivets and the salvage yard and doing all that sort of stuff. So as far as I know, he's still kicking and full of beans. So they're, as far as I know, Ma and Pa Avery are doing just fine. I think the plates were ripped off by whomever dumped the car. Then by the time they ran to the other side of the property, were perhaps told by a phone they shouldn't have, and threw them in the other car. Doesn't anyone think it was odd that Teresa was murdered? A lot of people thought that, Citizen Smith. It used to be a big topic of conversation back in 2016. Yikes. Yawning already? No, I'm all right. Reddit helps to transfer information. Reddit was the first place I went after watching MAM. I don't recall what took me there. You can't get tired already. I'm not tired. You guys are fine. We're fine, guys. I may yawn, but I'm not going anywhere. Just joined in. Had a long day. Glad I got to catch you. Fighting the good fight. Keep it up, brother. Thanks, Andy. How's it going, buddy? BC Canada. Hey there, M Story. I can just see two people I won't name standing there, just bending them in the dark. Wasn't someone hands all jacked up a few days later, right? In pictures I've seen, they look good. Mom and Pa are doing great. Dolores' knees have healed well, and she's still taking things day at a time. I think Brendan looks happier now. I think he's even safer in Oshkosh. Things are looking better for him. I think that may be true, especially because Oshkosh has a lot more things that he can do than he had over at the other place. So Polyver eats lettuce, bugs and all. Hey, bugs are protein, right? Hey, what a snazzy pair of suspenders. Suspenders. People don't want to interact on TTM, and TTM Wiki is loaded with information. There you go. Stuff from his garden. Thank you, Carla, for joining us. I know you can't mention certain names on here, but do you have a good theory of who and how this murder happened? So, fair enough. I guess if you want me to take that question, I will. I was talking about it a little bit with TikTok. So you have obviously Zellner's current theory, which is Bobby and Scott. I personally am still very curious about who was this person harassing Teresa, and finding out who it is. And was it Ryan? Because Ryan, there's so many things about Ryan where he is lying. He's been exposed as a fraud, saying things that aren't true, and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, Ryan's highly suspicious to me, and the fact that somebody was actually harassing Teresa at the time is interesting to me. What also I can say is that anybody in that area at the time, if they were looking to do Teresa harm, would have realized that the public opinion, especially with the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, was very much against Stephen Avery, and that their bias could be exploited. Anybody would have known that, and so anybody who killed Teresa would have potentially known that, right? So that's just, to me, just a significant point. But anyway, but that's kind of what I think, is that possibly it's this person tied up, who was harassing Teresa by phone. The guy's safety always comes to mind. Let's see. His visitors can have a meal with him now. I bet Brendan loves having dinner with his mom and family. Absolutely. I know a lot of guards work in the Oshkosh. Good people. That's how I try to imagine Paul Avery. I have been here the whole time listening, but trying to get a few things done in between. Been up since 4 a.m., and I'm not sure how long I will be on. So, well, we'll see you, Carla, if you got to go. But, hey, as long as you're here, we welcome. Def think it was Ryan doing the harassing. I've always wondered. Why Ryan has told so many lies that weren't necessary if he were not involved in some way. Right? Why would you tell all these lies if there wasn't something? Right? I mean, even if you're getting blackmailed, what are you getting blackmailed with? Right? I mean, so it's interesting. It's a fair question. Remember, Ryan inserted himself into the investigation. Yes. He just finished a 12-day stretch of overtime. We really appreciate how you are a liaison from us to the family. And yes, I do agree with that, but my soul and gut go back to the initial lawsuit and the corruption. Ryan gave a fake name as well. And he had her day planner, yes. Ryan Kilgus, yes. Let's see. Has KZ ever gotten access to TH phone records to get a clue as to who was harassing TH? I do believe so, Shona. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she has. I actually had on-the-job training at Oshkosh back in '98. Wasn't crazy about it. You're doing a great job as a host. Oh, thank you so much, M Story. Dinner with Brendan has been great, and he has been really enjoying the homemade meals, especially with family. He even had some lasagna the other day, first time in years, and he said it was great. That's awesome. Glad to hear that, Carla. I like hearing that Brendan has things to, be happy about. So that's awesome. Big shout out Stephen Avery and Sandy. Thank you for your help and collaboration on MaM-A-Thon. Allie, thank you. Can you please give a shout out to the people who have donated? I don't know who's donated. How can I do that? I'm live here. Hold on a second, folks. All right, well, we'll come back to that later. Okay, now you want some lasagna. Carla's so happy he's in a place where he can enjoy a more engaging family time during visits. Oh, hey, Captain Crunch is here, folks. You see? Look, Captain Crunch. Anyway. Hi, Carla. Live chat with the dude soon. Oh, yeah, no, she'll never come on. Never. Hell will freeze over first. I've asked her many times, though. Say thank you to all who donated. Oh, thank you to all those who have donated so far. Hello, Captain. So Captain Crunch lives on Crunch Island, which is 3 hours before Central Time. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. That would be the ultimate box to tick. Hey, we're talking about Captain Crunch, But did Ryan get caught by the dirties and they helped him with the ways to plant and cover in exchange for not implicating him? I suppose that's a possibility. And like I said, I mean, I think it's a possibility he was the one harassing Teresa. I've seen, like, the quote in his yearbook is another one, dude. The quote in his yearbook is just something else. Truly just, like, something else, really. I can't believe, honestly. It was something about it was just very not happy about women. It was like, oh, don't trust women or something like that. It was really, yeah, it was kind of creepy or maybe even a little concerning. So if Tracy Keogh is out there listening, you might want to go ahead and maybe get ready. I'm going to probably be sending a link through in about 5 minutes, maybe. And J-Jax, I'm going to be sending you a link as well. So hopefully you'll get it. think people just want answers to all the things that don't add up. That's true. Also, thank you to Mary and Stacy for their donations. Hembury wants to come on as well. From what Pom Pom said, Henbury hasn't reached out to me yet. So, but if he does, certainly. Oh, there she. There. Oh, there we go. She's ready. Okay. Snapper. Okay, if Carla is still on, I wonder if she can comment about how the new facility that Brennan is in has an improvement for him. Well, I tell you what, Travis, I was trying to convince Carla to go on with Tracy. I tried. I did my best. I gave it the college effort, you know. And hopefully Carla will find some time to go on with Tracy tomorrow. So. Well, I was on Discord up until I went live, so I didn't see it before then. Well, he's not going to be on tonight, so I'll check it out after, and then we'll line him up for tomorrow or Sunday. Carla has been saying how much better the new place is. That's my way of thinking. Truth Monster. All right, so before we move into a little chat with Miss Tracy Keogh, who you all know I love very much. She's very awesome. Had her on, last Sunday night, I believe it was, or whatever. It was about 4 or 5 days ago. Brilliant discussion with Tracy. Even had Scooby and Allie join later on in the discussion. It was pretty awesome. But anyway, gonna have Tracy on. Gonna have Redditor J-Jax on here in a minute. But before we do that, I thought we might play another Stacy tune. So I think this one here.
He's innocent. The day always comes if you're innocent.
Get on the train before it leaves the station. Wisconsin versus Avery, a complete fabrication. Get on the train before it leaves town. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down. And we all know Stephen and Brendan were blamed, but it does not take a brain surgeon to see that they were framed. And yes, we know what this was about. The civil suit, the settlement that did not want to pay out, want to pay out. And you may hear this song, or maybe you don't get it. I suggest you look up TikTok, Manitowoc on Reddit. There you will find trial transcripts, evidence files, and reports. And you will start to fathom the corruption within the court. And as you shake your head, because everything seems demented, you will find yourself in company of 3 unbanked judges that dissented. But don't you worry, you're not going insane. You just happen to sit down on Zellner's True Train. Get on the train before it leaves the station. Final destination, inevitable exoneration. Get on the train before it leaves town. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down. Get on the train.
All right. Get on the train, folks. Love Stacy Seabrook. Want to remind you guys, go over and subscribe to Stacy's channel. We are really trying to get Stacy to 1,000 subscribers so that he will be able to live stream from his mobile device at Rally. So I'm sure my mods are putting up his links. Go over and hit subscribe for Stacy. He's a good guy. And I think you guys will also find it interesting when he goes live from Rally. So head on over there to Stacy's channel and make sure you hit like on that. So just real quick. So obviously when it comes to these cases, you know, I mean, it all starts off. I mean, if we go through MAM, right? You know, Making a Murder, part 1, first season, right? It all starts with Stephen getting out of prison, being exonerated, right? Because a corrupt law enforcement agency had, you know, wrongfully convicted him, essentially. So, you know, looking for something here, but nope, that wasn't it. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to find the place where I can give Tracy the link here. Oh, well, it's not obvious, so I can't find it. All right, let's try a different way. So it's, you know, anyway, it starts out with Stephen being exonerated, obviously. So that number 1 tells you that there was some jankiness going on in the area to begin with. But then it moves into this, you know, investigation like TikTok was saying, where, you know, before they even find bones or anything like that to show Teresa is dead or, you know, in danger or anything, before they have any proof of anything, you know, you got that one guy, Jacobs, calling in asking, you know, was Stephen Avery in custody yet? So that's clearly showing a bias, a predisposition of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. So, I mean, seriously. Just a second, folks. I am just grabbing something real quick. Because I've been doing so much lately, I can't seem to remember email addresses. So I'm just finding one right now. So as I was saying, right? So it moves on to that. You get that phone call from that guy. Basically, the day the RAV4 is found, there's no bones of Teresa. Nothing is found yet. Nothing to prove or suggest that she was actually, that foul play occurred. And yet they were asking, did they have Stephen in custody yet? So you move on from that. Then you got, you know, Michael Bushman being on the scene, calling Ertl away from finding the bones, essentially, and that sort of thing, and pulling him over to Cuss Road to dig up a dead stump. And then by the time they get back over to the, you know, they were pulled away from sifting burn. But it's a mess of all the things that they're doing. Why, Michael Bushman was there is just beyond me. I was retired. You know, it's serious. Like I told TikTok Manitowoc, I'm not even sure anymore that the 36 million was really what was bothering. Well, I mean, I'm sure it was bothering people because obviously, you know, if the insurance wasn't going to cover it, which they weren't at first, you know, a lot of people would have been on the hook, and that would have been, you know, undesirable. But I think even more than that, what was trying to be avoided was the depositions of Kosarik and Vogel. Personally, that's what I think. I think that was desperately trying to be avoided because all the underlings had already given up all the dirt. And if they went in there and tried to lie and whitewash and minimize, it wouldn't have done a thing. But if they revilify Stephen Avery, well, there they may have something. Yeah, that's truly the way it is. The only ones that had motive here are Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. I blame the other law enforcement agencies for backing Brothers of the Badge blindly without asking questions. Except for Fassbender and Wiegert. I think those guys were knowingly jerks. But anyway. So, Tracy, I just sent you an invite. And J-Jax, give me just a second. So, there's obviously, then, you got Colburn in the key, the cabinet, the whole fantasy there, twist and shout. Come on, aliens, throw the key out. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, isn't it funny he's playing twist and shout with that dresser, but the change in the remote didn't move a freaking millimeter. That was on top of it didn't move a millimeter. And then the key actually didn't fall behind. It actually fell. Hello, Tracy. It actually fell kind of forward and on the side and kind of forward from the back edge of the cabinet. So, hi, how are you, Tracy? Good to have you.
Hi, I'm getting you in duplicate here.
Oh, because here, let me do this first of all.
Headphones?
Yeah, if I get my headphones in. Because right now you're coming out of my speakers and into my microphone. All right. Hello?
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is still weird. Hang on.
Uh-oh. So if I talk, there's an echo? All right.
Oh, it's delayed.
Oh, you got to mute YouTube. Yeah. You got to watch us. You got to deal with me through the Hangout. Mute YouTube. Just use that to watch the chat.
Ah, okay. Okay, is that better?
I think so. I'm not hearing any echoes or anything now. So I think we got it.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
All right.
Well, first of all, well done, young man. This is
thank you. Thank you.
This has been something great this morning. Well, this morning Australian time.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's actually been kind of fun. I enjoyed talking to TikTok Manitowoc and John Frac.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to talking to John Frac again in the future. So, that was pretty cool though. So, J-Jax, I've sent you a link. So as soon as you let me know if you have any trouble with that, I'll jump back to Twitter to check on, your progress. Anyway, so we're here today basically talking about with you and J-Jax, we're going to talk about Brendan, but obviously when I talk about Brendan, I can still talk about Stephen because really, when you look at what happened to Brendan, it's obvious that it's because they were trying to shore up their case against Steve. The obvious, poisoning of the jury pool, the way that they did the press conference, and the way that none of this confession really comes from Brendan. It doesn't. None of it.
Yeah.
And the only parts, and that's one of my questions for you tonight, was that one of the parts that kills me is that they offer these ridiculous, uncorroborated facts. Well, I say that I use the term fact loosely about, things that Brendan said that can't be corroborated. And then that's proof that he was telling the truth. I'm like, what kind of freaking Mungo world logic is that? I don't know. Anyway, it makes no sense to me, but it kind of leads to my question about, do you believe the majority judges in this case really believe that those uncorroborated statements by Brendan were actually credible? Or do you feel like they were pointing to those just to essentially justify their cowering behind AEDPA?
Okay, I've had to think about this, and I think what it comes down to is the majority were more concerned with finality. So this whole idea of litigation not ongoing, courtesy of Clinton in 1996, courtesy of Timothy McVeigh, I think the finality is a pretty powerful tenement in American jurisprudence. It's throughout statutes. I think most people can look at the interrogation and they will come away with the fact that this is obviously a coerced confession, and that's coming from somebody, myself, who's an absolute layperson on any of this. And 3 years of MaM have educated me, not
Right.
3 years of making a murderer, but 3 years of looking and reading and researching
Right.
has educated me. So I think in regards to the majority at the en banc, that their strict adherence to the ideal of finality, preserved a conviction over the truth, preserved a conviction over innocence. And I don't think, and we've heard it many times before, that when you get to that appellate level at the federal courts, because of procedural bars such as that EDPA encompasses, innocence isn't necessarily a guarantee of of freedom. It may go some way towards freedom, but rarely is freedom granted. EDPA gutted the habeas corpus, so it's basically taken the power away from the federal courts and placed it, more or less front and square at the state courts. So for me, I think it was about finality. I think it was also about interpretation. You had, as we know, we had a 4-3, and it's particular judges, I suppose, have their own particular ideologies, and when they're coming into something that has a statute such as EDPA involved, their years of experience is going to inform the way that they decide on that. So I think that the majority value finality above everything else in Brendan's case, and unfortunately, Brendan, fell victim to an archaic law with obscure technicalities.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. For me, I feel they were cowering behind AEDPA. I feel like even Judge Hamilton at a couple points was kind of like alluding to the fact that, I see some troubling things here.
For sure.
But like he's talking himself out of it. And it's like, it just bugs me. It just bugs me because, you have to see, when you look at that, Laura Nyrider has pointed out to him, where the list was where he could go and find this out, where basically all these facts are fed. Now, virtually none of this comes from Brendan. So how can this be a real confession?
Yeah.
Confessions aren't, if they're voluntary, think about that. Volunteer. When you volunteer something, you do it of your own free will, on your own, right? Not when it's fed to you and you regurgitate. Anyway, I don't know. So I have a bone to pick with the way they interpret AEDPA here, because to suggest that Brendan was given anything close to, special care or anything resembling special care is just laughable in the extreme.
Yeah. Well, I think that you could probably approach 90 out of 100 people in, say, the legal profession, and they would have great concern with the outcome of the en banc decision. It's the fact that the idea that litigation cannot go on indefinitely absolutely obscures the idea of innocence trumping everything else, and I think you go back over even the first Seventh Circuit, and you have Hamilton hinting at vague promises of leniency. You obviously have Williams and you have Rovner, who clearly see these promises of leniency.
Yes.
And he does acknowledge that.
And watching the investigators made their stomachs turn. Anyways.
Yeah. What can we do with that? Unfortunately, it comes down to a statute such as EDPA and the limitations that it places on the federal courts. Their hands are tied to a certain extent, and I'm sure it's a fusion of their hands being tied, their own interpretation of EDPA, and I think we saw the fact that Brendan's innocence made no difference, or the Laura very eloquently talks about, the 27th, the rape was fed to him, all of the various elements that were fed to him. These were highlighted, but yet we still come away with an en banc decision. And Luke Berg was able to absolutely pound home the fact that this is under habeas review.
Yeah.
And in the end, unfortunately, EDPA and the habeas review, the habeas review served no purpose for Brendan. So for me, I was heartbroken for Brendan, for his family, but also for his legal team, that it was the end of like a 13-year odyssey.
Yeah.
And to hit such a 4-3 majority opinion was just horrendous,
Well, the thing is, I might agree with you about them just being strictly adhering to EDPA, but there's the little matter of them regurgitating Wisconsin's BS about the control question.
Yeah.
And regurgitating that BS, to me, it's hard for me to believe that these learned judges don't understand the English language. That's not something I'm likely to believe. So I have to look at it and go, okay, they knew what this said and yet represented it the way they did anyway.
Yeah.
To reinforce their decision, which, judging by that being left in, they felt was weak. And that's why they were trying to throw that in to bolster. And I don't know. To me, it's just it's bizarre, because what happens with that control question only proves exactly how malleable Brendan is in the hands of those investigators. That's exactly what it proves. And to suggest that it proves anything else is beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Berg quoted that Brendan resisted 35 times. 35 times. And it comes down to, I think, what you want the end result to be. So, Berg, I don't think it wasn't his place to go, okay, 35 times. Maybe he was guessing. That wasn't his end outcome. His end outcome was to keep Brendan Dassey incarcerated.
Right.
Wrongly. We know that was, we're all appalled by that. But there are statutes, there are limitations, there are laws. And I think that, unfortunately, the interpretation that we had of the en banc majority of EDPA, and, taking those elements of Brendan resisting, of misinterpreting the control question, as we discussed previously, where Brendan obviously says what, and the connotation of that is changed when it's repeatedly documented as where. So I understand where you're coming from. I am in no way a fan of those 4 judges. It's to me, it was a travesty, just a travesty. But then, we have to look at the broader picture, and we have to look at EDPA and what can be done about EDPA. What can be done? How does it get done? Through what channels can it be lobbied? I think that's a really important point in terms of future habeas petitions.
We need the habeas writ back. I agree.
Absolutely, because
they didn't call it a great writ for nothing, folks. They didn't call it that for nothing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's no longer a great writ. It offers little protection.
Right.
Yeah. Little protection for those who are wrongfully convicted. You know, if you think about Brendan, and we've heard from his team that the fact that the habeas was granted was such a rarity, and then to go on to the next Seventh Circuit and to win that again was the rarity. For all of that to be taken by the en banc, I can't imagine what that did to his to Brendan, to his family, to his legal team. You know, and
yeah, especially since it was a Hail Mary to begin with to get the en banc.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you have a better chance of being heard by SCOTUS than you do of getting an en banc.
Right.
I mean, it's like, how the hell did they overcome these odds? How do they keep overcoming these odds? How are they doing this?
But, and it's you know, I did look into, for example, what if Brendan Dassey lived in Victoria, Australia? What would have happened to Brendan here?
Which is my next question. Would this happen in Oz?
Right. Okay. So the Australian system of common law was inherited through the colonisation, through the UK, and there are elements of the US involved as well. Right. So we have an appellate system similar to yourselves. But in Victoria, if Brendan had been brought in for questioning, first of all, there's a determination whether he is under arrest or whether he is assisting police. And that's a very big determination that is made.
Okay.
And then you have, he must be, we don't have a standardized Miranda, which I think Carol went into. I was listening, which was great.
Yes.
But he must be able to contact a friend. He must be able to contact a lawyer or an interested party. Right. He cannot be interrogated in the state of Victoria without an attorney or a parent or an interested party present. And they must confer with each other before they go into the interrogation.
Wow.
So there are those protections in place. That's not to say that Australia is this panacea of goodness in criminal justice reform. It certainly isn't. We have some major issues over here in juvenile justice, particularly with our Indigenous communities. We can have a look at the Northern Territory, for example, where you have 100% of incarcerated juveniles are Aboriginal Indigenous juveniles. So we do have
their didgeridoo after midnight. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
They're getting into real trouble, I imagine.
Yeah. But you know, I think you know, it does come down to also, if you've got those protections in place and you call your parent in to be with you, and your parent isn't across interrogations or isn't you know, legally up to speed with what to advise their child of, you still have you know, the possibility of a false confession happening.
Right.
You know, and the states do allow a certain amount of coercive questioning. In Australia, on a state-to-state basis, you have different legislations. It's similar again to the US. So, you know, laws can be interpreted in different ways according to the state that the individual is in. But all of it, because of the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, which Australia did ratify in 1990, I think it was, there are certain constructs that must be followed. So there must always be presumption of innocence when dealing with a juvenile and an adult, but I'm talking about juveniles in particular. And you know, there should always be priority placed on the well-being of the child in question.
Right.
So you know, do I think that Brendan's confession would have got through? I think very, very unlikely. In Australia, again, we fall down in this area. We have a population of nearly 25 million people. I think our prison population is around 42,500 people. There is conjecture 3% of those people are wrongfully convicted. But we do not have any empirical data or research into that area in Australia.
Right. Innocence projects?
No, it does. It's not. It's not something that politicians particularly run on over here. We do have the Indigenous issue is something that is getting a bigger profile, and rightly so, because there's been some horrendous stuff coming out of a institution called Dondale. I think the common law does not permit detention for the purposes of questioning alone. So there would have been a few different things, and we don't. Over here, there's not a lot, and maybe it's because we don't have people researching, but there's not a lot of publicity around wrongful convictions. I think if we look back a little bit, there's about 12 wrongful convictions that have been given a public profile in Australia since 1923, which to me is just outrageous. I doubt all of those statistics, in a country of 25 million people.
Right.
And we have some very seriously dodgy bail laws and sentencing, that goes on over here. So, yeah. To answer, do I think Brendan would have ended up where he is in Australia? No. Yeah. No, I don't. I think there's greater protections for juveniles going through the legal system.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is when I was talking to Steve Moore, who I am hoping to have on this weekend, he was talking about what it was like to have to if he had a situation like with Brendan in federal court, which is what the FBI was generally dealing with. They were usually, filing with this United States District Attorney. He was saying that they had very strict rules and everything about how the kind of conduct of how you talk to and interrogate juvenile stuff. And he talks about how it was very strict, and that every time he had a juvenile that he had to deal with, the first thing he would do is call the U.S. District Attorney's office and say, "Hey, look, I have blah 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 blah," and he would get their advice before he would do anything. And but that doesn't seem to happen in all the states. Now, he did say that some states seem to do it. Some states kind of have that same mentality. He said, but like this area of Wisconsin, no, not that area of Wisconsin. They don't have that. So
yeah, there's such disparity between the states in how they interpret the law, the sentencing. I mean, you have states where people are able to go and purchase, medicinal marijuana, yet you have other states where people are serving life sentences for having carried, marijuana on their being. The disparity, I think, is quite frightening. Brendan possibly could have been in another state, and this would not have happened to him. The fact that geography makes a difference in the same country, I think is a really big issue.
Yeah. So I mean, and so I do find that interesting that. It'd be good if the rest of the U.S. could get on board with that and realize that, I mean, it's not like there's not things there to suggest, It's not like it's not right there in the Reed handbook, that if you use the full Reed technique on a kid, you're rolling the dice essentially. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I mean, so there's plenty there. Supreme Court SCOTUS decisions that talk about the fact that you really do have to be careful interrogating a juvenile. And I mean, so it's just not like there's nothing out there to suggest this. It's just that it's being blatantly ignored, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you have, I think it's Yarborough versus Alvarado that talks about turning to the actual mindset of the juvenile that's in front of you. Lorna Ryder referenced this and many others. We had 3 judges that got it, and we had 4 judges that didn't care. Do you know what I mean? Like the Supreme Court has, they have special care. Brendan was not given special care. When they reference the state's courts you know, referencing special care. They talk about Brendan's age, and
Right.
you know, his age. Do you know what I mean? There was so much more to Brendan that needed special care.
Right.
Than just the fact that he was 16 years of age.
Absolutely.
You know, I actually went back over the transcripts, because I had transcribed both of the en banc and the first panel.
Right.
And
Oral
you know
argument,
that,
right?
yeah, the oral arguments.
Right.
And you know, this absolute lack of care by the state for Brendan's vulnerabilities. You know, they don't address it at all. They just reference the state court's opinion, which was a fleeting opinion. And Brendan was failed. He was failed, and you would hope, but unfortunately, it seems the other way around, that the higher the court you go, the higher the bar is to try and prove innocence. You know, and it's it should never, and we've discussed this so many times, but it should never have gotten out of that trial court. You know, for me, Wiegert and Fassbender, again, reiterating what I've spoken about before, but they knew that they had a young man in front of them with developmental disabilities.
Right.
You know, if you had a young guy that it's well documented that he doesn't understand idioms, he doesn't understand the nuances of language in that way, and yet you know, that's just bypassed by federal courts.
Right.
Not all of them, obviously. Judge Duffin, who we see recently, has once again acted with a bit of integrity by recusing himself from the Colburn case. You know, obviously saw what was in front of him. You know, and we could talk for hours about Kaczynski. You know, you know, the fact that he admitted that he was working on behalf of the victim and for the prosecution. Right. He admitted that. You know, that whole ineffective. Again, it comes back down to case law. You know, whether it's Kyler versus Sullivan or whether it's Strickland. You know, the fact that this young guy's life and his freedom depends on choosing at 13 years ago the right case law to fight under. You know, all of those things are just terribly heartbreaking.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So in terms of, you know, to get back to Fassbender and Wiegert, I mean,
favorite people. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So we kind of did this before, but you know, what do you think about them? Like, in terms of, were they just overzealous, or did they pretty much do what they did knowing that Brendan wasn't offering this stuff on his own? That, you know.
No, for me, they absolutely were conducting themselves with an agenda.
Right.
You know, let's look at the 27th. You know, I think they've got what is it that they're talking about? The you know, they talk about the rape. Did he make you do it? You know, Brendan talks about being the crime happening outside of the garage. They put him in the garage. If they've got nothing to hide, if they have no agenda, they're seeking the truth. But they're not that, you know, it's not their role to feed Brendan these facts. It's not their role to lead Brendan into these areas. Yes. But they purposely do that. They purposely do that because they needed it to fit the narrative. Yeah. And I understand it is probably an extremely difficult line that investigators have to walk. They're looking for the truth. But do I think that Wiegert and Fassbender look for the truth in the most ethical way? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. You know, Brendan gave a false confession without corroboration. You know, any of the information that came out of it that you know, Judge Hamilton decided to hang his little hat on was fed to him by Wiggett and Fassbender, and it was fed to Brendan early. You know, we go back to Crivets, we go back to November the 6th. You have Detective O'Neill telling Brendan, no, Brendan, that's not what happened. You know, this is what happened. You did see Teresa. You know,
Right.
conjecture is Brendan. First of all, I don't believe anything happened at the Avery salvage yard. If it was to happen at that particular point in time, Brendan wasn't there. Brendan was at school.
Right.
You know, so it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That there's an hour there, and you know, yeah, it's hard to believe that Brendan comes home and then the party just goes on, you know, or I say party, but you know, but that it just all just continues. I mean, and if you're doing something like that, you're not really looking to bring in other people. You know what I mean? You're not looking to let other people know what you're doing. So it's like, it's just all the things as a whole make the whole Brendan Dassey situation just ridiculous. To be perfectly honest. And
for sure,
and then,
for sure.
And Wiggert touching him, you know, prodding him, and all that sort of stuff. It's like nowhere in this interrogation is there any kind of integrity. You know, in my opinion,
no.
You know, it's just ridiculous.
No, I mean, they obviously would have. They're seasoned investigators. They would know that they were dealing with a young man with limitations.
Mm-hmm.
If they are as good as they say they are, that would have been one of the first things that they noticed about Brendan Dassey. And that, for me, is why Brendan Dassey was chosen. You know, I've seen quite a few times on Twitter people saying, and it does take a lot for me not to respond, but people talking about the fact that Stephen Avery would never have been convicted without Brendan Dassey. And I put to those people in my head, because I'm going to scroll on by, that Brendan Dassey would be living his life if he had not been Stephen Avery's alibi. Brendan Dassey would be living his life if he didn't live on the Avery salvage yard. You know, I think that 152 minutes in, Stephen being targeted pretty much summed up that it was Stephen Avery that they were after. And they basically didn't stop until they had enough in which to put forward a conviction, you know, and to take him to trial. And, you know, we're talking about 2006 and 2007. We have the hindsight. People back then, they didn't. But most certainly, I believe, you know, there's very much a Pizzagate that went on, particularly with I know with Brendan's more so than Stephen's, because I'm not as across Stephen's case. But, you know, I think it was 4 hours that the Remaker and another officer, her husband, was allowed to go to the jury with pizza and drinks for 4 hours. For 4 hours.
Right.
You know? Yeah, that poor kid was just stitched up, you know.
He was, absolutely was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and then, I mean, more suggestion, more proof of that is like looking what happens to him along the way. First lawyer he gets is actually a family member of the Hallbox.
Yeah.
And ends up removing himself, but only after he waives Brendan's right for a preliminary trial to decide whether or not they have enough evidence to try him, right? So he waives that and then walks off into the sunset. Then we get Kaczynski, you know, and it's like, oh, brother. I mean, it's like, and then Frengen. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, why the hell are you not letting the jury hear Brendan recant?
Yeah.
What the? Did you listen to it all? You know what I mean? It's just like, he was so utterly failed by his representation in almost every turn.
Yeah.
It's like,
there was not one legal advocate through the whole trial process, the pre-trial process, that was looking out for Brendan Dassey's interests. We know Kaczynski's behaviour was enough to finally get him removed after the May 13th, I think it is, interrogation. But, and then they, the Fox and what have you Berg talks about that it was the 8 months from Kaczynski leaving until the trial of Brendan Dassey. So, there was no damage done. No, I beg to differ. I believe the damage was done purposely at that stage, because going into a trial with everything that had happened beforehand, Brendan did not stand a chance. We all know about the fantasy show that Kratz put on with a great big smile on his face, to deliver some horrendous news about what the narrative was that they believed, and had coerced out of Brendan. But the fact that nobody knew about O'Kelly and what he was doing and how he was pressuring Brendan until Robert Dvorak in 2010, I think 2010, tracked him down. It's that Drizzen quote. Yeah, the talk at Northwestern, when he talks about Robert Dvorak tracking him across the country and whatever, and I just like the idea of dragging him back.
Yeah, by his ear, right? Yeah. Dvorak, like dragging him by his ear. Anyway,
with a suitcase, but nobody was aware of the provenance of how that, May 13th, maybe I'm getting my dates a little bit, but the phone call happened, and they talk about this phone call. It was mentioned 3 times throughout, but you look at the emails as well. Kratz talks about that phone call. He tried to use that phone call in regards to that plea deal that they were, purportedly coming up with for Brendan. He was absolutely failed. I think O'Kelly, while we all dislike the man immensely, I think I think there's still more to what he's done that we don't know about. And I mentioned that about suggesting other sheriffs and other towns that could have been of help to Fassbender in Brendan's case. And, you have to wonder what was the particular skill set that this sheriff had. You know what I mean? Like, you look at O'Kelly, he had this... his resume are like 2-day workshops. That's O'Kelly's expertise. He's this litany of 2-day workshops, and he's heavily involved in workshops for child sex abuse and all that type of thing. And I'm like, you had a child in front of you and you emotionally abused him. And I think it's Stephen Drizzen who talks towards the end of Making a Murderer season 1, where he says that O'Kelly absolutely traumatized Brendan. And I think you can see that. I mean, they just weren't believing this young guy, and how many times could he tell them the truth? And his own team weren't believing him. I don't know what that would have done to Brendan, Yeah,
I agree. And like I said, I mean, and I've said this before, I mean, me personally, I don't think Brendan ever forgot about the promise O'Neill made. The very, very specific promise that couldn't be disguised as an idiom or anything else. I don't think Brendan ever forgot about that. I think that probably, I mean, first of all, getting pulled over while he was up in Crivets and getting questioned in a vehicle for, however long it was, hour and a half. That's all going to stick out in his mind. It's not like he had been part of a murder investigation before ever in his life. I mean, all this stuff is going to stick with him. And it's like, to think that promise from O'Neill wasn't going, especially with all the reassurances that Fassbender and Wiegert are then giving him and everything. To think that wouldn't have stuck with him is just, to me, stupid,
Yeah, for sure. And we're dealing with a young man that it's well documented that he's very much a concrete thinker, and that's been referenced many times, and that Brendan is very much a concrete thinker. So if people in authority are talking to him like this, then he's taking that on board. You know, I think, you know, he's what, 95% more suggestible than the general population. So you have a young man who defers to authority, and whatever they're going to say to him, he's going to take on board. And that is so obvious when he's requesting to go back to class. You know, and it's a piece when Laura Narida talks, when she says that's when the bargain was broken for him. When he asks to go back, and they're like, you know, you're under arrest now, Brendan, because of what you've told us. And, you know, it shows that he was like, okay, so that, you know, they say that if I say whatever they want, if I do what they ask, you know, they're asking from me, then I do get to go back to class, because, you know, I got to go on November the 6th. I got to go on November the 10th. You know, the 27th let me go. God knows what they did to him on the night of 27th at Box Hills, but they let him go, you know. So there's this guy who's going,
an expectation.
Absolutely he did. And why would he not have? Because you do have those promises of leniency. You do have those, you know, I'm a father right now. You know, I'm a police officer, but I'm a father right now. And all of those types of soothing, calming type of statements that to a concrete thinker, to a vulnerable, suggestible young man who's sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, I believe them. Why do I not believe them? You know what I mean? I have no reason not to believe them. They've let me go before. And then when he just says, you know, is it only for one day? If your heart doesn't break when you hear that young man say that, there's something wrong with you.
Day, yeah, I know, right?
Is it only for one day?
One day, yeah.
Can I call my girlfriend?
It's like so obvious that the kid does not understand his Miranda rights. He clearly didn't get it.
No.
You know?
I mean, he waived it because he had nothing to hide. You know, we talk about that guilelessness and the fact that he wouldn't have gone into any of these conversations going, geez, I better not say this or I better not say that, because there was nothing for him to say. You know, so when you listen to those stories, when you listen to they're confessions, false confessions. For me, they're just stories. You know, and it's just
that's what Steve Moore called it. Fassbender and Wiegert had a good story. Anyway, sorry.
but that's the truth of it for me. You know, it's very difficult, again, as a layperson, to look at them and say, how can people who know so much more than me, who have gone to college and who have studied, you know, false confessions, who have been afforded the title of a judge, not get it?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do they not get it, Richard? How do they not get it?
I don't know. I'm just imagining because our legal system is so freaking political. It's like sweetheart deals combined with I don't know, other slight issues. You know, I mean, other things that, you know, but I mean, it could be getting into a judge spot. You agree to do something that somebody says because they have the money to, you know, help you win, you know?
So, I know. I mean, it's you know, one of the quotes is, we know you're scared of arrest, Brendan, but you've got nothing to worry about.
All right.
So listen, Brendan.
Very vague to me.
Yeah. That to me is kind of like a bit of a promise. You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay, Brendan, you might be scared, but listen, you're going to tell us some stuff. You might inculpate yourself in some things that might make you look a little bit worse, but we've got you covered. We've got your back here.
Yeah.
And we know
we're like your dad.
Exactly. And I'm going to give you a little intrusive pat on the leg just to make you feel a little bit more comfortable there.
Then I'm going to come sit next to you and put my arm around your shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we know through Fraser versus Cupp that the police can lie. The police can embellish and they can lie. And they lied through their teeth to Brendan Dassey. You know, I don't understand how they did that. You know, I don't understand how they did that. We can talk of the tunnel vision of the investigators. We talk of the tunnel vision of the prosecution and whatever. But they would all have been acutely aware of the young man that they were dealing with. you know, and it's yeah. You know, I'm not a cop right now. I'm a parent.
Yeah.
Right. Just
yeah.
you know,
I want to come over and give you a big hug.
Yeah.
I know you're hurting. It's like, and Brendan's just sitting there like expressionless, really. And it's
yeah. And it's like the whole idea of okay, in Wisconsin, if you lose weight and you cry a lot, then maybe you've committed some sort of heinous crime. You know, no, actually, Brendan was maybe he lost weight because he was, you know, trying to have a girlfriend, as lots of 16-year-olds and 49-year-olds do, and you know, maybe he was, talking about his weight, talking about crying. Why would he not have been upset? His uncle Stephen had just, you know, he'd had his uncle Stephen for 2 years. This is, you know, we know Brendan is a young man who is very family orientated. We can't imagine the type of dialogue that was happening at the Avery salvage yard while this was unfolding, and Stephen was being taken into custody and whatever. It must have been horrific for them, for all of the younger people there, to take on board what was happening. You know, and the simple fact that Brendan was crying means that he was hiding something. Well, you know, that's like, there's some very big straws that they were clutching, and you know, bring it back to that unbunked majority again, that they reference his weight loss. You know, it's like how about a bit of kudos to the guy for wanting to get a bit healthier, but no, this is about him being involved in a crime.
Especially when he tells you, you know, yeah, a girl broke up with me, and I think it's because she thought I was maybe getting fat or something, right?
Yeah.
Seeing this kid, man, he's like a beat puppy, and like you somehow think it's good to coerce him. It's just like, oh my God, it's just, I don't know how those two, dude. Look, for me, the killer is right here.
Yeah.
Brendan freaking tells them, because when they call him on something that he was, you know, wrong about, or that they ended up, you know, making him flip-flop on, they go, well, why didn't you tell us that, or whatever? And he goes, because I was guessing. You know, and it's like, and they're just like, oh, you know, next subject, right? Because they don't even want to touch that. He's like, I mean, he's got point blank right there. Boom, guys, I am guessing.
And he says that to his mother as well. You know, he talks about the fact that he's guessing like he did with his homework. You know, and you look at Brendan's IEPs and whatever. I mean, the guy was almost clinical about attending class, and you know, he was very thorough in his approach to school and whatever, but there were elements where he struggled. You know, homework wasn't great for Brendan, but the fact that he told his mother that he guessed like he does at school, and then you have him telling, you know, Wiegert and Fassbender that he was guessing, and like you said, again, they just bypass it. They bypass those. It's like bypassing the slit throat. No. We've got to keep going. There's something else that we need from you. So we're going to, you know, we don't need to pay any attention to that. So Brendan, this is, you know, then they go on to the next thing with him. It's like the body parts on the 27th. Brendan, did you help? Did you help them put the body in the fire?
Right.
Then they talk about hands and feet and stuff. And I think Brendan talks about a belly.
Yes.
And a forehead. A belly and a forehead.
Different words, same parts that had been suggested.
Yeah, but for me, it's like, who would even talk about a belly?
Yeah.
In a homicide investigation, a belly is such an unsophisticated and simple and childish word that, you know, you don't have in front of you somebody who's committed this horrendous rape and murder and mutilation come up with the word belly to describe something, or, you know, or I saw the forehead, you know. And Berg talks about the fact that this was imprinted in Brendan's mind that he had to get it off his chest and all this sort of stuff. Nah, Brendan was talking about bellies and foreheads. It was unsophisticated because he was a young 16.
That's one thing I always point out about Brendan too. Is that listen to him trying to describe these things.
Yeah.
These acts, these rapes, these whatever. He honestly is describing it like a kid who has no idea what it is or what it's about. That's honestly, I mean, it's like hearing some kid who's heard about it but has never done it and is trying to brag. If you can imagine how those kids sound, this is a little different. He's not bragging, but he's desperately trying to come up with something convincing, which would be just like the kids who are bragging. So it's like it has that similarity, and it's like listening to him talk about it. You get that, he doesn't understand. He's never done this.
No, of course he hasn't. The whole idea, they put him in the trailer. They put him in, they get him to the hood lab. None of this is Brendan. None of this is Brendan. Brendan is nowhere near being in the garage. Brendan's not in the trailer. It's absolutely criminal what they've done to him. And I think that appellate process, particularly watching it play out in MaM-A-Thon, in real time as it happened, I would talk to Barb, or I would talk to close friends as it was unfolding, and people who were involved, and it was heartbreaking, and it was a lot of different things. But then when you watch his parents on MaM-A-Thon, when you watch Laura and Stephen on MaM-A-Thon, having to take in the information that what they've been fighting for the last 13 years has been ripped away, I found that really difficult to watch. You helped tie her up. Oh, please, just shut up.
Right. Like their desperation because they want to use the hood latch swab, right? Or they want to use that swab for the hood latch. So it's like, oh, Brendan, wait, before you guys left the car, before you guys walked away from the RAV4, there was something else. There was something else, right? And it's like, and so Brendan's just like, he has no clue. He's just kind of like, what do they want now? And eventually, they actually have to say it. They have to go like, did he go under the hood, Brendan? And like, oh yeah, I did. Whatever. Brendan's just like, yeah, okay, I agree. And it's like, and it's just like, that is where the hood latch swab comes in. This is the hood latch swab, folks, that has 19 times more DNA than they found anywhere else that day. It has 19 more times DNA. Oh my God!
It is farcical. It's farcical if it wasn't so tragic. Right. That people are living this injustice, and it is Brendan and it is Stephen, but I think for me that I've taken a particular interest in, over the past year is looking at the mothers of these children that have been wrongfully convicted and how this impacts the women behind these wrongful convictions, and looking at the fight that Christina Brazil is fighting for her brother every day. She's on Facebook and she's out there with Anthony DiPippo, and they're fighting for him. David Casale is with them as well. Then you have, I struggle pronouncing people's names, John Guka, not sure, but his mother, she fights for him every single day. You have Dolores Avery, who has fought for her son now for 32 years. You have Marianne Erickson. All of these women whose children have been taken from them, through wrongful convictions, who are fighting. Adnan Syed's mother. I don't know if you watched the documentary recently, but it just finished here.
I still need to watch the Adnan Syed thing, but I mean to.
I just I've just finished it here in Australia, and his mother broke my heart. All these mothers break my heart, you know, because it's like the mothers of the disappears. Their children are with them one day, then they're not the next. And yes, there's different circumstances behind a lot of these convictions, but there's a commonality of prosecutorial misconduct that runs through them. You know, and other elements that run through them as well. And that for me is something that I hope to concentrate a little bit on in writing, and that is profiling the impact that this has on. I know it impacts fathers, of course it does, but I think particularly the bond with a mother and her son is in this scenario is something quite special. And you see these women fighting for their sons, and I think we need to take into consideration that they fight for their sons in the way that they know how to fight. So not everybody is you know, across the law, or not everybody gets social media or knows people who has people to help them to, you know, to support their cause. But all of these women are living these wrongful convictions. And, you know, knowing that Brendan's family are now just 1 hour from him. And we heard from Carla the difference that it's already making a difference for Brendan. The biggest difference will be when he takes those final steps home, which I have every belief that he will. But, you know, I think it's, anybody that believes in the voluntariness of Brendan's confession without taking into consideration his limitations in a legal context should not be practicing law.
Right.
You know, you know, just putting it out there. Sorry, Judge Hamilton, or Kanye, or Sykes. Or, if it was particularly nasty, let's not bypass that one. But
talking about Can though, did you see one of the MAM promos that Falcon made? It showed me. It was actually when I was in Utah. I was doing a live when I was in Utah, and I was talking about Judge Can. I'm like, Judge Can, for those of you who don't know, he's the one that was kind of like, you know, you know, like, and I said something like, oh, I think he's going a little, you know.
Oh, I think I did see that. I think I did see that. I mean, he was pushing Laura.
Like, oh my God, they could have picked a better clip.
No, but here's the thing, you know, he was pushing Laura. He was pushing Laura on that, you know, but, you know, about the truth. So the truth. And he didn't understand that Laura was saying, but the truth wasn't actually the truth. The truth that the investigators were looking for was the coerced and false narrative.
Yes.
That was the truth. You know, so while he's saying, but, you know, does the truth not matter, or whatever, I can't remember his exact wording.
But they needed two killers? So they needed two killers? It's like, no, dude. As just said earlier, the reason why they were going after Brendan was because they wanted him to testify against Stephen Avery. Judge Hamilton said it himself, you moron. You know, it's like, oh, my God.
And then
saying about these it's like, no, that doesn't make sense.
And then you have Sykes, who was, shall we say, a little aggressive to Laura. I'm just being nice.
I know.
This is the nice Tracy. But you know, and talking about, you know, you're trying to get new law passed and whatever. And Laura's very emphatic about saying, no, this is decades old law.
Right.
You know, it's that interpretation that like freaks me out, you know, that there's such different interpretation between judges, and what informs that you know, perspective. You know, what informs that perspective? How do you have the chief judge of the Seventh Circuit absolutely understanding what has happened, and then you have, you know, 4 other judges on the same circuit just not getting it, or getting it but going, do you know what, EDPA's too high a bar, and this is not compelling enough for us to say, you know,
it's not egregious enough.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
you know, let's leave it. We'll leave it to the state court.
Yeah. To talk about that bit with Sykes, though, that you just brought up, where she jumped on Laura, right? The more interesting bit about that for me is the way that Judge Hamilton sets it up. Okay?
Yeah.
He lulls Laura in. Okay? He entices her in. He goes, what would you suggest to law enforcement officers if we were to whatever, if we were to agree with you and decide in your favor? What practical what does he call it? He said, what practical advice essentially would you offer for, and that's the guys it's under. And she goes, well, we're not here to do that. You know, that's not what we're here to decide. And he's like, no, I understand, but I want you to I want to hear what you have to say, basically. So she goes ahead and she answers his question. And then like right there, that was the set in volleyball. And then here comes Sykes. Wham! You know, slam it down. I'm just like, you guys are freaking disingenuous assholes. Anyway.
No, I absolutely agree. They, you know, there was
folks. Anyway.
particularly Hamilton in that sequence, you know, he was absolutely setting Laura up to lead her into a dialogue that somebody else could jump on and say, okay, you're trying to you know, implement new law here. And they, again, it's that misconstruing, it's that perspective, it's that how I'm going to interpret what somebody's saying, because, you know, through all of this, there are so many angles to it. But I think we have this commonality from, you know, the 60 people that were involved in the amici curiae. I don't know. I'm trying with that word. And you know, all of the legal experts, the academia, the psychologists, and whatever. How does the Seventh Circuit not take on board, you know, the science of false confessions now? I mean, we have Rovner who talks about the fact that we do need to bring, you know, people into 2018, 2017 and getting across the science behind false confessions, that this is not just an anomaly, that this is an actual phenomenon that happens to people of all ages and all backgrounds. You know, but it, I don't know, the en banc majority, it was extremely disappointing and heartbreaking, and that work up to the Supreme Court, you know, was again incredible for the support for Brendan, and for it to just fall flat. You know, it was like this apathetic silence from the Supreme Court, and I know that they take less than 1% of cases per year. But as it was, you know, it was stated that this was the first time in 40 years that they had the opportunity to do something in the juvenile justice space.
And on habeas relief, like they would have been able to create a way for juveniles to seek relief through the federal courts. If, you know, I mean, we got to do something to keep these state courts honest, because they're just basically like, you know, they don't give a crap. They're like, federal government can't do shit. AEDPA, motherfucker. You know, it's like, you know,
that's right. Yeah, they're not answerable now. So you had a habeas that was a protection. It was a haven for the wrongfully convicted to pursue their innocence through the courts.
Right.
Now you have EDPA, and you have the state courts almost where finality stops.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know what else you can say about that, you know?
Right. Well, I have something here that Georgina Stulen-Bose sent me. I think it's pretty special. It's a bunch of, basically in different languages, saying that the Dutch, German, Italian, and French in the Netherlands, basically meaning the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, and Switzerland are behind Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey. So she has in 4 different languages.
Oh, brilliant.
So everybody want to hear it? What does everybody think?
Go for it.
By the way, thank you, Chase, very much. Obviously, I want to remind everybody that the idea isn't to donate to us here today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But the idea is not to not to donate to us, but to donate to Brendan and Steven. Just wanted to say that. Okay, so everybody wants to hear it. All righty, here we go, folks. Oh, wait, I gotta...
Nederland staat achter Stephen Avery en Brendan Dassey.
Italia sta dietro di Stephen Avery e Brendan Dassey. Deutschland steht hinter Stephen Avery und Brendan Dassey.
I love this. This is awesome. Thank you, Georgina.
La Suisse est aux côtés de Stephen Avery et Brendan Dassey.
Awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to play that again. I'm going to play those again during my lives this weekend. I love that. That's awesome. So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear you. Good. Sometimes when I unplug my headphones and do that, it doesn't quite work all the time. All right. That was cool, though. Wow, that was awesome. That was really... Thank you so much for that, Georgina. That was really a lot of fun.
So, Richard.
Yes.
Richard, question for you.
Okay.
Okay. Who's your main suspect?
Well, it's hard to say. It's either an unknown person or Ryan.
I've just heard you ask so many people. I thought, okay, let's put this back on Richard.
Yeah, there you go. Put me in the hot seat, right?
Yeah, and if it was Ryan, for example, why do you think it's Ryan?
Oh, the day planner, the lies about her getting a lump sum insurance payment for the broken turn indicator, the Cheshire cat smile in court when he was lying. Yeah, the list goes on and on. The news interview where they're asking him if he was on site or whatever and everything. And he had been, but he was lying and saying, no. They had it all crime scene taped off and secured, offering all these qualifying words basically so he didn't have to say that he was on the salvage yard and everything. And it's just like so many things. I mean, and there's probably more I just forgot. But anyway.
Yeah. And tell me what compels you what started you doing these videos and what compels you to keep going?
So I think I have actually told this story, but I love telling it. So some of you have met Johnny Jack Smith, or as you know him here, Ripper, on YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel. I interviewed him in December during Christmas break. Him and I had a little chat. Anyway, love Johnny. But back in the days, back in 2016, Johnny was one of the original YouTubers right out of the gate. Ripper was. With Casey, who you're going to see on Allie's channel after we're done here, folks. She's going to be having Casey on. He was one of the ones first out of the gate. Well, Johnny and I became friends because I liked Johnny's videos, and I was sharing his videos and posting them on Facebook all the time. And so just because I was doing that, he eventually reached out to me. We became friends, and he realized how strongly I felt about Brendan Dassey. He realized that pretty quickly, and eventually got to the point where he was talking with Monica Boxley and her friend at the time, whose name I can't remember. They were running a support group, and they were asking him if he could do stuff about Brendan Dassey. So he made like a couple videos about it, and then he started asking me. He goes, you should start making videos. You should make some videos. You should do that or whatever and everything. I previously hadn't really considered it. I wasn't real keen. I'm like all you. I was just like all of you guys. I was not real keen to be getting on camera and talking, in a public way like this. But my passion for it eventually outweighed that. I was eventually just so moved. I was reviewing the November 6th interrogation of Brendan and everything, and that was basically my first video. And then I was reviewing another Reddit post about Brendan that brilliantly pointed out some of the BS that was going on. and that was my second video. And then I started covering Brendan's court documents, because that's when his stuff started, heating up, because Duffin had granted his habeas relief.
Yeah.
And it was like a crawl. I mean, I was like, geez, stumbling, fumbling, really not. I mean, I'm a far cry from what I'm like now. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was, the passion carries you through. When you got enough of it, it just carries you through. I mean, and here I am going nearly every day, 2.5 years later. So
yeah. And thankfully that you do that. I think we need 1,000 YouTubers. We need. It would be great to get some people from Wisconsin doing what you do as often as you do. I think we need thousands of people just using whatever skills that they have in whatever platform that they can access, and keep raising awareness. Because here's the thing, people may get bored, but Stephen and Brendan need people to be doing this. They need people to be engaged, 24/7. And MaM-A-Thon coming out in October last year obviously propelled a second wave of support, which has been awesome. It's particularly prevalent on Twitter, I think. But yeah, I thank you for what you do, Richard. I think you do a great service to the lads.
I'm thankful for you too. You do a lot of great work, so it's feelings mutual.
Thank you. I must say,
I'm putting your face on YouTube, but hey, guys, look, this lady's doing a lot of work in helping Brendan and Stephen, and tweeting and looking into the Wisconsin political structure for us when it's necessary, when it's time, when it's that time for elections and stuff. She's the one that's on Twitter letting us know where we can find out the information and learn about the candidates and get educated about what's going on. I mean, she does a lot of work, and you guys would be prudent to take advantage of it when the time comes, to benefit from the stuff that she does, because she does a lot of brilliant things. So those of you who don't know, now you know. And knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe. Anyway.
You've missed your vocation.
So let's see. All right, what do we got in the comment section here? Denise, it's always a good time to tap that like button. Yep. Let's see. They could not foresee the documentary tuning. Yeah, that's another thing about this, is you got to wonder in this, did all these, bad actors in this, did they just convince themselves, well, nobody will ever care about Stephen Avery, right? Nobody's ever going to care. Well, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, you got to imagine that had to be kind of going through their heads, right?
Absolutely. If I haven't read Kratz's book, and I don't intend to, but
listen,
I know
the first 3 chapters. It's
there's a description of Brendan Dassey that I know Stephen Drizzen has addressed on Twitter, and that enough for me was enough to show me that they thought nothing was ever going to come of what they did to Brendan and Stephen. The way he described them with there was like a disdain, and talked about his hair and whatever. It was quite nasty, to be honest. But yeah, for me, when I read that, I thought, of course they didn't think, 10 years on, the public psyche would be turned into an absolute momentum of support for these two men. Will we see something like this again? I don't know. Yeah. I look back at the West Memphis 3, and I know that there was a lot of support there, but it was a different time, so you didn't have the social media outlet that you do have now. There weren't YouTubers talking about the West Memphis 3. I've had a look. There's, you get a look at the documentaries, but it certainly wasn't the beast that the support is for Brendan and Stephen. And that's how I see it. It's like a heaving breathing beast of all of these people and their outrage,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's wild, but it's good to see for me when I look at it. I mean, back when I first started supporting, I didn't realize that there were so many guilters out there who actually believe Brendan's innocent. They believe Stephen did it, but they actually believe Brendan's innocent. I was kind of surprised to see that the numbers of people that think Brendan's innocent is truly, through the roof. Compared to the people that it's like I said, I thought all the guilters, if they thought Stephen was, I figured they thought Brendan was. Well, most of the time, but I think that's not necessarily the case. I think maybe half of them actually believe Brendan was railroaded, or there's problems with it, and they're not sure, or that sort of stuff. So I find that interesting. Brendan's case really does speak to people. Even people that are easily willing to send Avery down the river have qualms when it comes to Dassey. They have scruples. They have things that prick. You know what I mean? When they look at Dassey.
Yeah, you could approach Michael Griesbach on Twitter, and he never gives a definitive answer. When I've tweeted at him about Brent, he never gives a definitive answer. But I certainly don't get from him that he feels that Brendan Dassey is either he's not guilty or that he didn't receive a fair trial. I think Michael Griesbach is somewhere in there. And we've heard from Ken Cracks before that there's this, whether it's a fake sympathy or not, that he feels for Brendan. Well, if you felt for him, then you wouldn't have given that press conference where you just robbed him of his presumption of innocence. He basically buried Brendan when he did that, and Stephen, of course. But yeah, I mean, in terms of guilters, I couldn't tell you the name of any of them. I don't go near it. There is one particular person that I interact with on Twitter who believes Stephen is guilty and supports Brendan. And it's like a I don't know, a split personality. I'll speak to the part that believes Brendan is innocent 24 hours a day. I don't get into the Stephen Avery part, but with guilters and things like that, I don't want to know about it. It makes no difference.
Me personally, I just like to get out of the echo chamber every once in a while, because I don't necessarily want to just sit in a room with a bunch of people who are spitting the same things that I'm saying back at me, right? So I actually like to go out and seek out that possibly slightly adversarial situation. But I still like to be respectful. But
and that's fair enough because of what you do. You talk about both of the cases, whereas predominantly, as I've said before, my advocacy lies with Brendan. So I almost have like a sixth sense for anything that anyone's talking about to do with Brendan in a positive sense. And if they're not talking about Brendan in a positive sense, then I simply block. I just don't want to know. I don't want it on my news feed. I'm not going to engage with them, because the way that I look at it, I'm not here to prove Brendan's innocence. He's already done that. You just have to look at the interrogation tapes. There you have it. So you guys go and knock yourselves out. That's kind. But I know there's a validity to people taking on those with differing opinions and whatever. But for me, it's like I don't know. It distracts me from the reason why I'm here. So I just bypass.
Yeah, I hear you. For me, I can imagine for you, it's it's easier for you to stay away from that aspect. But for me, it's different. I like it. I like for people to challenge me on my opinions and my thoughts, because maybe they do have a small point, and maybe I have to rethink something and make my argument even stronger in the process. So I don't mind. You may point out something that I overlooked or whatever, but once you point it out, it's no longer a weakness. Because I fix it. Or
I think,
address it.
yeah, particularly with Stephen's case, because there's so many different elements involved because of the evidence. Where Brendan's case, as we know, and I quote Laura because she's so eloquent, is that it's words and words alone. Do you know what I mean? So it is different. Like, I don't need to get into, like, I bypass Reddit altogether. And you rarely see people taking Brendan to pieces on Twitter. You rarely see that, because there's an absolute army of people on Twitter there for Brendan. You know, it's really something quite special, I think. And yeah, for me, there's no. I don't want to know about anybody's opinion that doesn't believe Brendan Dassey's innocent. I don't care what they've got to say. If you believe Brendan's innocent, fantastic. We've got a common ground. If you don't, you know, I have nothing to say to you. That's kind of where I come from. But it is different because I don't involve myself heavily in both cases. And I think that, you know, a lot of people do debate over the evidence issue, and that's where I'm sure there's a lot of adversarial kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And there is. Hey, but, you know, there's adversarial conversations just in the supporter realm. So,
yeah,
unfortunately, we're humans and we don't always agree with each other. But, you know, it's those of us who can argue intelligently or, you know, make our points intelligently without resorting to name calling or any other such tactics. You know, that's what it's about, you know. And it's like I said, it's arguing with people from the other side helps me hone my own arguments. It helps it just causes me to sharpen, you know, I'm on the whetstone with my argument. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I'm on the Iron Throne with mine. You see. I'm on the Iron Throne. Nobody's removing me from the Iron Throne. Not Danny or John.
Dude, it's about to go down in Winterfell. Oh my Lord.
Amazing. Just amazing. It's amazing.
That was a pretty shocking episode last week.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. Brianna Tarth, like, she stole the show. Stole the show. You know. Do you think maybe spoilers, but do you think Danny's going to take John out for the throne?
I think if she tried, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I would think somebody could come up and say the prayer for the fire god or whatever, and he would just resurrect again. So that's interesting. I mean, it would be. She may try. That's
it was just her reaction in the catacombs that I thought was quite interesting.
Right.
But I won't spoil it for people who haven't seen it.
Oh, it's funny. All right.
So where did John? Was it John that was joining?
Oh, we had J-Jax was supposed to J-Jax the Redditor, but he had some problem with it. He was clicking on the link and it was not working for him. And it was, I don't know. So I'm going to work it out with him tomorrow morning. You know, I don't go live until about 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's, I'm going to probably try to get with him in the morning and help him work it out. We're almost done here, actually. In another 5 minutes, Allie will be joining us.
Great stuff.
And she will be with us for the last 15 minutes if you want to stick around. And we're gonna go out playing Something Going On, which is the song Stacy wrote about Brendan. So we're gonna go out on that one. So, Allie will be here in about 5 minutes, and then we'll do the final 15 minutes where we transition into her life, and then you know, so So, I'm sure.
So what do you think's ahead for Brendan, Rich?
Well, like I've said before, I think you know, I think Drizzen and Ryder are just going to sit back right now, and they're just going to see the sparks fly, while Zellner, you know, creates the wake, you know, by the, you know, looking, you know, basically searching the wake left by Zellner, basically, right? And whatever pops off that they can use, I think they're just going to continue to collect it and collect it and collect it until, you know, eventually they have a very significant amount of things that they can bring a motion for post-conviction relief. because that's, as you know, obviously you were there with me in Melbourne, and along with guys like Adam Bills, another good friend down in Australia. But they were talking about the fact that right now Brendan is essentially at the same place that Stephen was at the end of MAM1. That he had exhausted, they've exhausted their regular appeals or whatever, but Stephen still had the ability to file a motion for post-conviction relief, and Brendan also still has that option, that ability. Now he's just got to get the evidence to support it, right? And so that's why I say Drizzen and Nyrider are playing it smart. They're just sitting back. They're just going to wait and see what comes out when Zellner's tearing this thing up right now. So
yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting what comes from Kathleen next. And what's going to happen with Judge Suckowitz. I know you guys.
We call her Suckowitz anyway.
I know you do, but I just couldn't get that out of my mouth. I was like, I can't say that.
All right.
So what time is it for you, Richard?
It is 10:42.
That's not too late.
Yeah, it's not really. It's actually the funny thing is that it's MAM weekend, or it's MaM-A-Thon weekend, but actually my entire segment for me is on Friday. Not a single bit of this segment is actually on Saturday.
Yeah.
But just for me. For those in the Central Time Zone are going to find themselves, my live is ending at 1 a.m. But
yeah. And when does so you've got Ali coming on next, and then after Ali you have, is it Tracy or Paul?
I think it's Paul, just because it's more midday for him when it's middle of the night for us. So it's,
yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. It's brilliant. Well done to you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Ali to check Hangouts, and she should be here in a couple minutes. Hey, Ali, you out there? Hello. How you doing? We would love the pleasure of your presence.
Yeah, but it was quite interesting looking up juvenile justice in Australia, and I've touched on it before in a few articles that I've written, but never to the point of wondering if Brendan was in Victoria, my home state, as to whether he would have been convicted or not.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Just saying that it was interesting to look into whether or not Brendan, if he was in Victoria, would have been convicted, and knowing that he would have to speak to somebody. They would have to converse before they went into the interrogation. But it still lends itself open to false and coerced confessions if you have a parent who doesn't understand what their child's going into. But having said that, we don't know how many wrongful convictions or false confessions there are in Australia. We don't have that research. We have 2 innocence projects over here, one in Western Australia and one in Sydney, both in universities of law. But
oh, hi, Ali. How are you? I will try to do my best to help you with what you were talking about when we start your segment. I'll try to help you out with that if we can.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. So I was gonna do that with her like right before, but I don't know that I will have a way to do that. So we might just have to do it live. It'll be fun.
Like I said, the best way I've always done it is just create a Hangout, enter that person's email address, create the Hangout, and then drop the links there, because they generally seem to work from there.
That didn't work.
But anyway, I know
luckily,
I have a problem with JJax, but anyway.
Luckily, because it doesn't work. Luckily, I know the trick.
Nah.
Right after the question mark, you have to delete the rest of it.
Right after the question mark, I'm writing that down.
Right. I've had to do that like the last 3 times with you. I don't know why.
Oh my God. I don't think you've ever told me that. I think you just fixed it and didn't tell me that.
No, me and Julie both told you.
All right.
I'm pretty sure we did anyway.
Okay. I remember you saying you had to shorten it. I remember, oh yeah, you got to shorten it. Oh yeah, you got to shorten it. But I don't ever remember hearing exactly where.
Check it out.
I can't find my pen. Where's my stupid pen at? Anyways, all right, fine. We'll do it later.
Hey guys, shall I leave you to it? Shall I leave you to it now, and you guys pass on the baton? And
Oh, if you like.
yeah,
I don't mind if you stay, but if you like.
I shall leave you to it. I think I've probably given enough through the last hour and a half. So, good luck, Ali. I hope it goes really well, and I look forward to watching it. And cheers, Rich, for having me again. And continued good luck over the weekend, guys.
Thank you for being here. It was
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hi, Ollie.
Hi.
How you doing? You excited?
Yes. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Hey,
nervous and excited.
It's been a lot of fun over here. I'll tell you what.
You did great. Your guests were amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. They were pretty amazing. I mean, TikTok can just talk about this case, man. You like that? The way he just kind of just kept going. I was like trying to wait. Do I want to interrupt him here? Wait, do I want to interrupt him here? I was like,
Never.
Let him go a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Probably could have listened to him all day.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's great. But then I couldn't let him get away without mentioning that, that's the dude, that profile pic that he used to use, that's my favorite. I freaking love that. The Peter Griffin with the pillow fort. Oh my God. And then the story of how he got it makes it even better. It's just, the guilters were making fun of him. He's like, oh, yoink. Thanks. That's mine now. So that's awesome. All right. So what's going on your live, Allie?
Well, Casey's coming on with me to start out. So that'll be fun.
And I'll probably be there for the first 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And well, while I'm trying to get her situated and set up, that'll be good.
Yeah,
my distraction.
I'll be able to help the transition there. That's good. That's good.
Right.
What do you think? Did you get to hear Georgina Stulin Bowes saying basically thank you for supporting Stephen and Brendan in 4 different languages?
Yeah. That
cool.
was awesome.
Oh my God, I love that. Thank you, Georgina. You rock.
That was cool. Did you see what I got? Did you see that?
I see the shirt. Awesome shirt, folks. Look at that.
Right.
Here, let's click on her picture here.
It looks really good too.
There we go. Whoops. All right, so there it is, folks. MaM-A-Thon. Woohoo! All right.
MaM-A-Thon. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that is a cool shirt. I like it. That's a good design Falcon came up with the mic and everything. I like the retro old school mic. Kind of that's what I like. I think about it. It's really cool. So, but anyway, so yeah, so you got Mama Phoenix, Casey Oliver. Anybody else on tonight, or just Casey for tonight?
Stacy.
Stacy. We love Stacy, folks. Remember, go over and subscribe to Stacy's channel, folks. We want that guy going live from Raleigh. At least I do.
I do too. But yeah, you don't want to miss his live little campfire songs. Like, hopefully we can get him to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Or a sing-along maybe at the rally. Yeah. We want to live stream that for him.
Absolutely. So it's going to be fun if he gets that ability, folks. It's going to be awesome. He actually did live stream something before, but I think YouTube changed their terms. So now he has to have 1,000 subscribers to be able to do it. But he actually did a brilliant live once where he played 3 of his songs at a local little pub in where he lives, and it was awesome. I still have them. I could put them up for you guys if you wanted, but it was awesome. But I still want to see him. I still want everybody to go over and subscribe to him because I still want to see him go live in the future, especially from Raleigh. That's going to be awesome. So.
Gotta save everything he puts up, and that one didn't auto post, so I didn't get to save it. So you gotta send me that. So I can save it.
I have it all. I have them all saved on. I screen captured them, and so I have them all saved. But I have them saved. I broke them up as individual songs, so I don't have it all as like one big thing. But they're saved as the individual segments. And I just love the way Stacy does the storytelling in between when he's getting ready to introduce the song. I like the little banter that he's coming up with to explain to everybody there about his passion, why he's, why he cares about this and all that stuff. I thought that was all brilliant. I liked watching Stacey live, and so like I said, I think many of you out there would enjoy it. You only have to listen to Stacey's songs, folks, and to realize that, dude, this guy's done the research. This guy has done the research. I mean, you just listen to the lyrics of those songs, dude. He knows this case like the back of his hand. Like most of us, you see here talking about it every day. Anyway. So
that's exactly what I would like for people to see more of with him. And that was what I talked with him about, that if you come on with me, I'm not going to be like, yo, play me a song. I'm just going to ask him to just talk with me about how he feels about the case, what he thinks about this or that, or what he's passionate about in the cases. Yeah. Because he is so intelligent, such a deep thinker, and I love to hear his thoughts on those things. So we always have good discussions about it. It's great.
Yeah.
So I'd love for more people to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Hopefully I won't be passed out by the time he comes on. Sure hope not.
Yeah. He'll be on at 3, I think.
Yeah. I should be able to stay up. I mean, Friday night. Yeah, I should probably make it. So
awesome.
Sorry, Paul. I'll probably be passed out by then. No.
I couldn't sleep. I woke up way too early today, so I'll probably be passed out too, unfortunately.
Oh, my Lord. Let's see. Stacey Seabrook knows the case and can sing and play the guitar. The dude knows the case, but anyway. It's always got to be a dig with you, Paul. Come on, buddy. Show me some love, dude. Come on. And don't say smile, dude. I'll smack you. Anyways. All right. So anything else out here, folks? It's about to come to a close. We're going to be switching over to Allie's channel here in about 7 minutes. Anything you want to ask me? Because otherwise you have to wait until tomorrow afternoon. Or if anything you want to talk to Allie about. Although you're going to have 4 more hours to do that. You've only got about 7 minutes with me. Oh, sorry. 7 plus 15. So 22. Oh, my Lord. All right.
Well, I've just been running around doing some last minute gathering and getting ready stuff. But last I heard, the donations were up to $300 already. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being so awesome.
Yep. Let's see. Somebody's asking, I'm curious, how do you guys get on this case? How did you get all this from MAM? So I didn't just, we aren't, this stuff we're talking about is not just from watching 2 documentaries. Sapper Cop. No, we didn't just watch some documentaries. We've actually dug into the court documents, trial transcripts, CASO reports, numerous, sources, other YouTube videos, other videos that other people have created, other things like that. We've just been researching now for, a little over 3 years now, honestly. Ever since basically December of 2015, the end of December 2015. So since then, that's it's just a long time that we've been researching. We've just been picking up this information for the last 3 years. That's how we know it. It's not just from the documentaries. It's, we're talking about documents and case info. So Allie and I both are very, very heavy on that.
Yes, very.
So
the documentaries were just the starting point. Just a
that's
little
just what set us off, right?
Basic introduction to the cases is all it was.
Teresa O'Brien, yes, it's all recorded for you to watch later.
Mm-hmm.
Allie knows a lot. Ben Ashworth is saying, and let's see here. Thank you so much for helping the guys. So, I believe before we cut to Stacey here, I'm supposed to let everybody know what the total is so far, right? Of the donation total.
Yeah, they said $375.
Right.
Yep.
So that's what we got, folks. So far is the donations after my segment is $375, and if we continue to do 300 to 375, we could potentially see about $300 to 3,000, 3,500 maybe, or possibly a little more going to Steve and Brendan. So that would be pretty awesome. So thank you all for being considerate and coming in and showing Stephen and Brendan a little bit of love. That's what we were here for anyway, but obviously to talk about the case and create awareness. It's been pretty stellar because, I've had over 200 people watching pretty much over almost this whole time. Literally, it took maybe about 10 or 20 minutes to get to about 200 viewers, but it's been over 200 since then. It even got as high as 245. So that's a lot of people that have been tuning in. I'm so happy, all you tuning in, your passion, your excitement for this. It's awesome. It's one of the things that makes this fun. It makes it worthwhile. Sometimes when you're getting into the dredge of some of the aspects of supporting, it's getting to do things like this and seeing the good sides of people that really, really is a good payoff. It's just the payoff that really makes you feel like you're not wasting your time and that it's all worth it. And I can't say that enough because you guys make it worth it in a lot of ways. I can't just be out here talking by myself. I got to have other people who are interested in it, who are talking about it too. And so my hat's off to you. You guys are all great.
Yes.
So we are now at 10:57. So Allie will now go over and start her hangout. And then I will be joining that shortly while I play Stacy. She's going to go over and start her hangout. So, and then I will see you guys over there on Allie's channel in about 4 minutes. So,
all right.
All right.
So
we'll
see you guys in a minute.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, Allie.
Thanks, Erekose, for tonight. It's awesome.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay. I'll see you in a minute.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
See you in a second. All right, folks. Now, because I was talking with Tracy, talking about Brendan tonight. Well, we've been talking about a lot of things tonight, but I played 2 songs already. I think that were in Steven's, that were really centered on Steven. So now we're going to play the one that really focuses on Brendan. That's Something Going On, folks. So hope you guys enjoy. And away we go.
There's something going on. Freedom is in danger. Agents of the state, they taking children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. They needed someone, oh, Jody wouldn't flip. They looked around, saw him quick. Oh, it made so much sense why. Oh, Brendan Dassey, he was Steven's alibi. There's something going on in Wisconsin that's not kosher. We better stop, let's all take a look closer. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid for Brendan Dassey. That's exactly what they did. They visit him once, they visit him twice. They make him feel so safe. Sandwiches, soda, so nice. No cameras rolling and under no lights. Who knows what went on up in Fox Hill Monday night? There's something going on. Freedom is in danger. Everything about this kid getting stranger and stranger. All we know, they will sacrifice your kid. Oh, Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. March 1st, alone in a room with Bert and Ernie. No parent present and no attorney. 4 hours later,
with the touch of the knee,
they finally get Brendan to agree. There's something going on. I said there's something going on. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. There's something going on. in danger when the agents of the state can take the children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. Take Brendan Dassey.
Oh, that's exactly what they did. All right, folks, you know the drill. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe and make sure you do it for all the other hosts on this MaM-A-Thon, folks. And make sure you do it for Stacy, too. Hey, all right, that's it for my Kickoff Live. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you found it informative. Head on over to Allie. I'll see you there.